They called it a wedding. She called it a cage. Rafael DeLuca didn't believe in mercy, only in leverage. When he acquired shipping routes through marriage, he expected a business partner. What he got was a woman with bruises hidden under silk and terror barely concealed behind her vows. Alara Quinn wasn't here by choice. She was collateral, a transaction. And the moment Raphael saw the truth in her eyes during their first dance, something cracked in the empire he'd built on ruthlessness. Because power, he was about to learn, meant nothing if you became the monster you swore you'd never be. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. The contract sat on Rafael DeLuca's desk like a death sentence written in legal prose. He'd read it 3 times already, not because the terms were complex, but because he still couldn't quite believe Marcus Quinn had been stupid enough to sign it. 20% equity in Quinn Shipping International, exclusive access to the Atlantic Corridor, and one additional clause that made Raphael's attorney actually laugh out loud when they drafted it. "You're taking his daughter as payment?" Vincent had asked, removing his reading glasses. "That's medieval, even for you." Raphael had shrugged. He offered. That had been 6 weeks ago. Now, standing in the private room of St. Catherine's Cathedral, adjusting cufflinks that cost more than most people's cars, Raphael felt nothing. He'd felt nothing for so long that the absence of emotion had become its own kind of comfort. Feelings were liabilities. Attachments were weapons your enemies could use against you. The door opened. Father McKenna entered, wringing his hands. "Mr. DeLuca, the bride has arrived." "Is she ready?" The priest hesitated. "She's present." Raphael caught the distinction but didn't comment. He followed McKenna through corridors that smelled like incense and old wood, past stained glass windows that painted the floor in fractured light. His footsteps echoed. Everything about this place felt designed to make you feel small, judged. Raphael had stopped feeling judged around the same time he stopped feeling anything else. The ceremony was private. No guests beyond the legally required witnesses, Vincent and some paralegal whose name Raphael hadn't bothered to learn. Marcus Quinn sat in the front row, looking like a man who'd just sold his soul and was trying to convince himself he'd gotten a good price. Then Raphael saw her. Alara Quinn stood at the altar in a dress that probably cost a fortune, but hung on her like she was drowning in fabric. She was beautiful in that fragile way that made men want to either protect or possess. Raphael had learned long ago that the difference between those two impulses was thinner than most people wanted to admit, but it was her eyes that stopped him. She wasn't looking at him with the resigned practicality he'd expected. She wasn't even looking at him with hatred, which would have at least suggested some fight left in her. She was looking at him with the flat, distant gaze of someone who'd already left their body. Someone who'd learned that the only way to survive certain things was to not be present for them. Raphael had seen that look before, in mirrors mostly, when he was younger. He walked to the altar. She flinched. It was subtle, just a slight tension in her shoulders, a barely perceptible shift in her weight like she was preparing to absorb a blow. Father McKenna was already reading from his book, something about sacred unions and eternal bonds, words that meant nothing in this room where a father sat watching his daughter being traded like livestock. "Do you, Raphael Joseph DeLuca, take this woman?" "I do," Raphael said, cutting him off. The priest blinked but continued. "And do you, Alara Catherine Quinn?" "She does," Marcus called from his pew. Alara's eyes closed, just for a second. "I need to hear it from the bride," Father McKenna said quietly, and there was something in his voice that suggested he knew exactly what kind of ceremony this was. Alara opened her eyes, looked directly at Raphael for the first time. "I do," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been screaming, or crying, or both. The ring felt heavy in Raphael's hand. He'd let Vincent pick it out, something tasteful, expensive, designed to photograph well for the society pages that would run this story as a romantic merger between 2 prominent families. When he slid it onto her finger, her hand was trembling so badly he had to steady it. Her skin was ice cold. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." No one applauded. Marcus stood, walked to the altar, and shook Raphael's hand with the enthusiasm of a man at a funeral. "Take care of my daughter," he said, and Raphael couldn't tell if it was a request or a warning or just something you were supposed to say? I'll take care of my investment, Raphael replied. He'd meant it as a jab at Marcus, a reminder of what this really was. But Alara's face went even paler, and Raphael realized she'd thought he was talking about her. The reception was held at the Meridian, Raphael's hotel, because everything in a 10-block radius was either his property or paid him protection. The ballroom had been decorated with white roses and ice sculptures, the kind of ostentatious display that was meant to signal wealth and taste. It signaled neither. Alara sat at the head table like a statue. She hadn't eaten anything from the 5-course meal, hadn't touched her champagne, just sat there with her hands folded in her lap, staring at nothing. Raphael watched her from the corner of his eye while he made small talk with associates who'd shown up to kiss the ring and measure whether this marriage made him weaker or stronger. Most seemed to think weaker. A wife was a pressure point, something that could be used against you. They weren't wrong. You should dance with your bride, Vincent said, appearing at his elbow. People are starting to talk. Let them talk. Raphael. Vincent's voice dropped. You look like you're attending a business acquisition, not your own wedding. At least pretend you wanted this. Raphael stood, crossed to Alara, extended his hand. She looked at it like he was offering her a snake. We should dance, he said. Not a question. She took his hand because what choice did she have? Her palm was still freezing. Raphael led her to the dance floor while a string quartet played something classical and melancholic. Other couples joined them, but Raphael was only aware of the woman in his arms who was holding herself so rigidly she might shatter. You can relax, he said quietly. Can I? It was the first full sentence she'd spoken to him. Her voice was different now, not hoarse, but sharp. There was something underneath the fear, anger maybe, or just exhaustion. I'm not going to hurt you. She laughed, actually laughed, though it sounded more like a cough. Everyone hurts me. Why would you be different? Because I'm not everyone. No. She met his eyes. You're worse. At least the others pretended to care. The song ended. She pulled away from him immediately, like his touch was burning her. Raphael let her go. Watched her disappear into the crowd, though crowd was generous for the 30 or so people who'd shown up. Marcus approached him, whiskey in hand, cheeks already flushed. She'll adjust, he said, clapping Raphael on the shoulder. Alara's always been dramatic. Give her a week. She'll settle in. How many times have you sold her before? Marcus's smile froze. Excuse me? She's terrified. Not nervous, terrified. That doesn't happen overnight. My daughter is fine. She's just... What did you do to her? The question came out harder than Raphael intended. Marcus took a step back, and for just a moment, his mask slipped. Underneath was something ugly, resentful. I did what fathers do, Marcus said quietly. I made sure she understood her place. Raphael's hand moved before his brain caught up. He had Marcus by the collar, yanking him close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath. If I find out you laid a hand on her... You'll what? Marcus smiled, and it was the smile of a man who knew he'd already won. She's your problem now, DeLuca. You wanted the shipping routes? You got them. And you got her. So if she's broken, that's on you to fix. Or throw away. I honestly don't care anymore. Raphael released him. Marcus straightened his jacket, drained his whiskey, and walked away. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. People left in clusters, offering congratulations that sounded like condolences. Vincent stayed until the end, helping coordinate the cleanup, saying nothing about the incident with Marcus because Vincent knew when to stay silent. Finally, it was just Raphael and Alara. She stood by the windows overlooking the city, still in her wedding dress, looking like a ghost. We should go, Raphael said. She didn't turn. Where? Home. I don't have one of those anymore. Raphael stepped closer. Not too close, he was learning her boundaries. The penthouse, top floor, it's secure. Is that supposed to comfort me? Now she did turn, and her eyes were rimmed red. That I'm being taken to a secure location? You can have your own room, your own space. I'm not... He stopped, started again. I'm not going to force anything. She studied him for a long moment, Men like you always say that, right before they force everything. I'm not other men. You keep saying that. Her voice cracked. But you took me anyway. You signed a contract that made me property. So forgive me if I don't believe you're different. She had a point. Raphael had spent so long viewing everything through the lens of strategy and acquisition that he'd forgotten there were living people on the other side of his deals. Or maybe he'd never let himself think about it in the first place. The ride to the penthouse was silent. Elara sat on the opposite side of the limousine, pressed against the door like she was calculating her odds of jumping out at a red light. Raphael didn't try to make conversation. What would he even say? The building was one of his. 32 floors of luxury apartments that housed politicians, celebrities, and the kind of people who needed excellent security and no questions asked. His penthouse occupied the entire top floor. Private elevator, biometric locks, windows that were actually reinforced steel with a ballistic rating that could stop a rocket launcher. Elara took it all in with that same distant expression. Kitchen's there, Raphael said, feeling absurdly like a real estate agent. Living room, office, gym, library. Your room is... Where's your room? He pointed down the hall. East wing. And mine? West wing, opposite side of the floor. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. She'd expected to be kept close, monitored, accessible. Raphael opened the door to what was now her room. It was larger than most apartments. California king bed, sitting area, full bathroom done in marble, walk-in closet already filled with clothes Vincent had arranged to have purchased. Neutral colors, expensive fabrics, no personality whatsoever. You can change anything, Raphael said. Furniture, colors, whatever you want. Elara walked in slowly, like she was waiting for the trap to spring. She touched the edge of the bed, then pulled her hand back. Where are the locks? What? On the door, where are they? Raphael gestured to the handle. Standard lock. And there's a deadbolt if... No. She shook her head. I mean the ones that keep me in. Jesus. There aren't any, Raphael said carefully. You can lock me out, but I can't lock you in. She didn't believe him. He could see it in her eyes. Elara, don't. She held up a hand. Just don't. I'm tired. I want to sleep. Raphael nodded, stepped back into the hall. If you need anything, there's a phone in every room. Extension 1 reaches my room. Extension 2 is Vincent, my attorney. Extension 3 is Marco, head of security. They're all men. What? They're all men. Of course they are. She laughed again, that broken sound. Good night, Mr. DeLuca. She closed the door. A moment later, he heard the lock click, then the deadbolt. Then something heavy being dragged across the floor, the dresser probably, barricading herself in. Raphael stood in the hallway for a long time, listening to the silence. He'd built an empire on his ability to read people, to anticipate their moves, to know what they wanted before they did. But standing outside that locked door, listening to his new wife fortify herself against him, Raphael realized he'd miscalculated everything. This wasn't a business arrangement. It was a hostage situation, and he was the captor. The next morning, Raphael woke to his phone buzzing. Vincent. We have a problem, his attorney said without preamble. What kind? The kind where Marcus Quinn is already trying to renegotiate the shipping contract. He's claiming you haven't upheld your end. Raphael swung his legs out of bed, already reaching for clothes. He got paid. Roots transferred yesterday. He's not talking about money. He's talking about his daughter. What about her? Vincent sighed. He expects you to consummate the arrangement. His words, not mine. Apparently he's been getting calls from associates who saw the wedding, and they're all asking why his daughter looked like she was at a funeral. He wants proof of marital commitment. Raphael's jaw clenched. He wants proof I raped her. He didn't use that word. He didn't have to. Raphael grabbed his watch from the nightstand. Tell Marcus Quinn to go to hell. The contract says nothing about... Actually, it does. Page 47, subsection 12. There's a clause about maintaining the appearance of a legitimate marriage for publicity purposes. He's arguing that if the marriage appears forced or unconsummated, it damages both your reputations and therefore the business relationship. That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Possibly. But it's also legally enforceable if he pushes it. Raphael closed his eyes, counted to 10. I'll handle it. How? I don't know yet. He ended the call, stood there in his bedroom that was all sharp angles and city views, everything designed to project power and control. None of it felt like enough anymore. A soft knock on his door. Marco, his head of security. Boss, we have another situation. What now? Mrs. DeLuca hasn't come out of her room. It's been 14 hours. She's not answering the phone, and the door's still barricaded. Raphael's stomach dropped. You tried calling? Every hour, nothing. He was moving before he thought about it, striding down the hall to the west wing. Stood outside her door, listening. Nothing. No movement, no sound, no indication of life. Elara? He knocked. I need to know you're all right. Silence. I'm going to break down the door if you don't answer. Still nothing. Raphael stepped back, nodded to Marco. His head of security was a former Spetsnaz operator who'd once punched through a brick wall. The bedroom door lasted about 3 seconds. The room was empty. No, not empty. The bed was made. The bathroom was pristine, but Elara was gone. Raphael's mind raced. The window? No, they were 32 floors up and bulletproof. The door had been barricaded from the inside, which meant a sound from the closet. Soft, muffled. He crossed the room in 3 strides, yanked open the closet door. Elara was curled in the corner, wedged between a wall of clothes and the back panel. She changed out of the wedding dress into an oversized sweatshirt and jeans. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Her eyes were open but unfocused. She wasn't crying, wasn't shaking, just gone. Elara. No response. Raphael crouched down slowly, keeping his movements visible and non-threatening. Can you hear me? Nothing. He'd seen this before. Shock, maybe. Or a complete shutdown. The human brain's last defense when fight or flight weren't options. I'm going to call a doctor, he said quietly. No. The word was barely a whisper. You need help. No doctors. Her eyes focused on him, and there was something wild in them now. No doctors, no police, no one. They'll tell him. They always tell him. Tell who? Your father? She flinched at the word. Raphael sat down on the floor, keeping distance between them. He can't touch you here. You don't understand. Her voice was getting stronger, but not in a good way. Frantic. He has people everywhere, doctors, lawyers, judges, they all owe him. If I go to a hospital, if anyone official sees me, he'll know, and then he'll... She stopped, wrapped her arms tighter around herself. He'll what? He'll take my sisters. Raphael went very still. What? I have 2 younger sisters, 15 and 13. That's why I agreed to this. He said if I didn't marry you, he'd... Her breath hitched. He'd make them pay for my disobedience. And I know he would. He's done it before. The pieces started falling into place. The terror, the resignation, the way she'd looked at him during the ceremony like he was just another punishment in a long line of them. Where are your sisters now? Boarding school, St. Anne's in Connecticut. He pays the tuition, controls their allowance. If I step out of line, he cuts them off. Or worse, he brings them home. What happens when they come home? Elara's laugh was hollow. The same thing that happened to me. Raphael felt something crack in his chest. It wasn't emotion. He'd locked that away years ago. But it was close. Some ancient fury that predated civilization, the kind that made men burn cities and salt the earth. He hit you. It wasn't a question. Among other things. She met his eyes. I was 17 when I learned that fathers aren't supposed to love their daughters. They're supposed to own them. And if you're owned, you can be rented out, loaned, traded. The first time he...
She stopped, swallowed. I tried to run. He broke my arm. Told everyone I fell down the stairs. The second time he broke 3 ribs and my jaw. No one questioned it. The third time I stopped running. Raphael's hands were shaking. He clenched them into fists. How long has this been happening? 6 years since my mother died, and there was no one left to stop him. Elar's voice was flat now, clinical. He started with me because I was oldest, told me if I cooperated, he'd leave the younger ones alone. I believed him for a while. Then I realized he was lying. He was always going to hurt them. I was just delaying the inevitable. So you married me to buy them time. I married you because it was the only option that didn't end with all 3 of us dead or worse. She tilted her head. What did you think this was? A love match? I thought it was a business arrangement. It was. I'm the merchandise. You're the buyer. My father's the broker.
Everyone gets what they want.
Except you. She smiled, and it was the saddest thing Raphael had ever seen. I stopped wanting things a long time ago. It hurts less. They sat there in silence. Raphael on the closet floor of a penthouse worth more than most people would earn in 10 lifetimes. Elara curled in the corner like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. I need you to listen to me, Raphael said finally. Your father doesn't control what happens in this apartment. I do. And I'm telling you right now, no one is going to hurt you here. Not him, not anyone. You can't promise that. I'm Raphael DeLuca. I own half this city and control most of the rest. If I say you're safe, you're safe. And what's the price? Her eyes were hard now. Because men like you don't do anything for free. So what do you want from me? Sex? Obedience? A pretty accessory to photograph well at events? I want you to eat something, Raphael said. And maybe not spend the next week hiding in a closet? She blinked. That's it? That's it. I don't believe you. I don't care if you believe me. I'm still not going to force you to do anything. Elara studied him for a long moment. You're going to get bored. Men like you always get bored. And when you do, you'll remember that you paid for me and you'll decide to get your money's worth. Men like me, Raphael repeated. You keep saying that. What do you think I am? A monster with good lawyers. Fair enough. He stood, offered his hand. But I'm your monster now, and I protect what's mine. She didn't take his hand, pushed herself up on her own, using the wall for support. I'm not yours. The contract says otherwise. The contract is a piece of paper. The contract is the only thing keeping your father from showing up here and dragging you back. So yes, you're mine. On paper, at least. Which means he can't touch you without declaring war on me. And trust me, he's not stupid enough to do that. Elara wrapped her arms around herself. What do you want me to do? I need you to appear at a charity gala next week. Stand next to me, smile for photographs, convince everyone this marriage is real and happy. Can you do that? Is that a request or an order? It's a necessity. Your father is already making noise about the arrangement being illegitimate. If we don't present a united front, he'll use it to void the contract and come for you. And your sisters. Her jaw tightened. Fine. I'll play the loving wife. But when the cameras are off, you lock yourself in your room and I stay in mine. Deal? She nodded slowly. Deal. Raphael turned to leave, then stopped. Elara? The door. Don't barricade it anymore. Why not? Because if something happens, if someone gets past security, if there's a fire, if you need help, I need to be able to reach you. And 3 seconds might make the difference. You mean you need access? I mean, I need to know you're safe. There's a difference. He left before she could argue, closed what was left of the broken door behind him. Marco was waiting in the hallway. Get that fixed, Raphael said. New door, better locks. And have someone install a panic button in her room. Direct line to security. Boss, is she? She's fine, or she will be. Raphael started walking. And Marco? I need a full workup on Marcus Quinn. Everything. Business dealings, personal life, where he eats lunch, who he's sleeping with, what skeletons are in his closet. I want to know every single thing he's ever done that he doesn't want public. You planning something? I'm planning options. Raphael paused at the elevator. And get me a meeting with the headmistress at St. Anne's boarding school in Connecticut. I want to make sure those girls are actually safe. Marco nodded, pulled out his phone, already making calls. Raphael rode the elevator down to his office level, a private floor between the penthouse and the building's corporate section. The space was all glass and steel, designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. His desk had belonged to a railroad baron in the 1800s, purchased at auction for a price that made Vincent wince. None of it felt like enough anymore. He called Vincent. "Tell Marcus Quinn I'll meet his requirements for marital commitment," Raphael said. "We're attending the Whitmore Gala next Friday. Make sure there are photographers. I want pictures of us looking like newlyweds on every society page in the city." "And the other part?" Vincent asked carefully. "What other part?" "The actual consummation." "Tell him to go to hell. The contract doesn't specify my bedroom activities, and he's not entitled to information about them. If he pushes, we'll push back with a countersuit for emotional damages caused by forcing his daughter into an arranged marriage." "That won't stick." "It doesn't have to stick. It just has to be public. You think Marcus wants people knowing he sold his daughter?" Vincent was quiet for a moment. "You're protecting her." "I'm protecting my investment." "Raphael, don't." Raphael's voice went hard. "Just do what I'm paying you to do and keep Quinn off my back." He ended the call. Sat at his desk that had seen 100 years of business deals and probably 1,000 betrayals. Looked out at the city he'd conquered through fear and calculated violence, and wondered when exactly he'd become the kind of man who measured his worth in how many people were afraid of him. The week crawled by. Elara emerged from her room in carefully scheduled increments. Early morning, when Raphael was usually in his office, late afternoon when he was out handling business. They orbited each other like planets, maintaining careful distance. Raphael had staff leave meals outside her door. She never ate them. He had the kitchen stock foods a nutritionist recommended for someone recovering from trauma. She ignored those too. On Thursday, 3 days before the gala, he found her in the library. It was his favorite room in the penthouse. 2 stories of books he'd collected over years, everything from first edition philosophy to pulp fiction he'd read as a kid. Elara was curled in one of the leather chairs, so absorbed in a book she didn't hear him enter. "Find something interesting?" he asked. She startled, nearly dropping the book. "I didn't think you'd be home." "It's my home." "I know, She stood. "I'll go." "You don't have to." Raphael moved to the bar cart, poured himself a scotch. "What are you reading?" She held up the book. "East of Eden." Good choice. Steinbeck understood that people are more complicated than good or evil. Is that why you have an entire shelf of his work? That's why I have an entire library. He gestured to the shelves. I grew up poor. Books were how I learned the world was bigger than the neighborhood that tried to kill me. What's your excuse? I grew up rich. Books were how I learned there were places where people actually cared about each other. She said it matter-of-factly, but Raphael heard the weight underneath. Your father, I don't want to talk about him. She set the book down. I should go. You probably want privacy. Elara, this is your home too. You can use any room you want. Can I? She turned to face him fully. Or is that another one of those things you say to make yourself feel better about what you did? What I did? Bought me. Like I was a car or a building or... Her voice cracked. I'm trying really hard not to hate you, but you're not making it easy. Raphael set down his glass. I didn't know. About your father. About any of it. Would it have mattered? The question hung between them. Would it have mattered? Raphael wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe he would have walked away from the deal if he'd known what Marcus Quinn was really selling. But he'd done business with monsters before. Had made deals that destroyed lives. Would this have been different? I don't know, he said finally. I'd like to think so, but I don't know. At least you're honest. Elara picked up the book again. Can I take this to my room? You can take the whole library if you want. I just want this one. She left without another word. Raphael stood there, drinking scotch and wondering when his penthouse had started feeling like a prison for both of them. Friday arrived. The Whitmore Gala was one of those events where the city's elite gathered to pretend they cared about charity while actually measuring their wealth against each other. Raphael had attended dozens of them, always alone, always leaving early. Tonight would be different. Vincent had arranged for a stylist to bring dresses to the penthouse. Alara locked herself in her room with the woman for 2 hours while Raphael waited in a suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. When she finally emerged, he nearly forgot how to breathe. The dress was midnight blue, fitted but not revealing, elegant without trying. They'd done something with her hair, pulled it back in a way that showed her face, which was both beautiful and terrifying because now he could see every emotion she was trying to hide. Fear, exhaustion, grim determination. "I look appropriate?" she asked. "You look stunning." That wasn't the goal. She crossed to him, and he saw she was wearing heels that made her almost his height. The goal is to look married, convince people this is real. So what do we need to do? Act like we can stand being in the same room. I can do that. What else? Raphael thought about it. When we're photographed, I'll put my hand on your back. Small gestures. Nothing intrusive. And if people ask how we met, business arrangement through your father, we spin it as a strategic alliance that became something more. A lie. A useful one. She nodded, took a breath. Okay, let's go lie to a room full of people who'll probably see right through us. The gala was held at the Metropolitan, a historic building that had been converted into an event space for occasions like this. The ballroom could hold 500 people. Tonight, it was packed with the city's power players, all dressed in designer clothes and fake smiles. Raphael and Alara made their entrance. Heads turned, conversations paused. This was the first public appearance of Raphael DeLuca's mysterious bride, and everyone wanted a look. "Smile," Raphael murmured. Alara's lips curved, but it didn't reach her eyes. His hand settled on her lower back, exactly as they'd discussed, appropriate and possessive at once. They worked the room. Raphael introduced her to business associates, politicians, socialites. Alara played her part perfectly, gracious and poised, saying all the right things. If you didn't know her, you'd think she was born to this life. But Raphael knew her now, could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her smile tightened every time someone touched her in greeting, the slight tremor in her hand when she accepted a champagne flute she wouldn't drink from. "You're doing well," he said during a brief moment alone. "I'm dying inside. Everyone here is dying inside. That's what makes them dangerous." She almost smiled. A real one this time, brief and gone. "Is that supposed to be comforting?" "It's supposed to be honest." A photographer appeared asking for a portrait. They posed, Raphael behind her, arms loosely around her waist, both of them angled toward the camera. Alara leaned back against him, and for just a moment it felt almost natural. "Beautiful, ne?" the photographer said. "You two are absolutely perfect." "Perfect." "Right." The rest of the night blurred. Raphael made deals between cocktails, collected debts disguised as friendly conversations, reminded certain people that their good fortune depended on his continued goodwill. Alara stayed at his side, playing the attentive wife, laughing at jokes that weren't funny and pretending to be fascinated by people who were boring. They were nearly to the end when Marcus Quinn appeared. He looked worse than at the wedding, eyes bloodshot, suit rumpled despite obvious expense. He was drunk. Not falling down drunk, but the kind of drunk that made bad decisions feel justified. "Raphael," he said too loudly, "and my lovely daughter, don't you two make a picture?" Alara went rigid. "Marcus." Raphael's voice was ice. "You're making a scene." "Am I?" He swayed slightly. "Just wanted to congratulate my son-in-law. Make sure you're treating my girl right." "I'm fine, Father," Alara said quietly. "Are you?" Marcus leaned closer, whiskey breath washing over them. "Because I've been hearing things. People are talking, saying this marriage doesn't look real. Saying you two barely touch, barely talk. That's not good for business, sweetheart." "We should go," Raphael said. "No, no." Marcus grabbed Alara's arm. "Stay, we're having a family conversation." She flinched,
tried to pull away. Marcus's grip tightened. Something inside Raphael snapped. He didn't think, didn't calculate, just moved, one hand catching Marcus's wrist, twisting it in a way that made the older man gasp and release Alara. Raphael stepped between them, putting his body between Marcus and his daughter. "Touch her again," Raphael said quietly, "and I'll break every bone in your hand." Marcus stumbled back. "You can't talk to me like I can talk to you however I want. She's my wife. That means she's under my protection. And if you ever lay hands on her again, contract or no contract, I will end you." People were watching now. Conversations dying, heads turning. Raphael didn't care. "You think you're so powerful," Marcus slurred. "But you're just a thug in a nice suit. My daughter? Your daughter is done being your punching bag. Go home, Marcus, before I decide to make this permanent." For a moment, Marcus looked like he might argue. Then he saw something in Raphael's eyes, some promise of violence that even drunk he was smart enough to fear. He left. Raphael turned to Alara. She was shaking, holding her arm where Marcus had grabbed her. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm—" Her voice broke. "Can we leave? Please?" They were in the limousine before she started crying, not gentle tears. Great, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere deep and old and broken. She curled into herself, pressing her face against her knees, trying to muffle the sounds. Raphael sat there, useless. He'd faced down armed men, negotiated with killers, built an empire on his ability to handle any situation, but watching Alara fall apart in the seat across from him, he had no idea what to do. "I'm sorry," she gasped between sobs. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I ruined everything. The gala, the photos. People saw. I don't care what people saw." Raphael leaned forward. "Alara, look at me." She lifted her head. Her makeup was destroyed, mascara tracking down her cheeks. "Your father will never touch you again," Raphael said. "I promise you that." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can, because as of tomorrow, he's going to have much bigger problems than you. I'm going to take apart everything he's built, his business, his reputation, his freedom. By the time I'm done, Marcus Quinn will be lucky to avoid prison." "Why?" She wiped at her face. "Why would you do that?" "Because—" Raphael stopped, started again. "Because what he did to you was wrong. And I might be a lot of things, but I don't let people profit from hurting women." It was true, he realized. Somewhere in the last 6 days, this had stopped being about the contract or the shipping routes or business strategy. It had become personal. Alara was still crying, but softer now. "I don't understand you. That makes two of us." They rode the rest of the way in silence. When they reached the penthouse, Alara went straight to her room. Raphael stood in the living room, loosening his tie, feeling like he'd just fought a war. His phone buzzed. "Vincent, tell me you didn't just threaten Marcus Quinn in front of 200 witnesses. I told him to keep his hands off his daughter." "Raphael, this is going to complicate—" "I don't care. Start the background check. I want everything on Quinn by Monday. Every illegal deal, every bribe, every person he's ever crossed. We're taking him down. This is personal for you. Everything is personal." Raphael ended the call. He poured another scotch, stood at the window, looking out at the city that had made him and broken him and made him again. Behind him, he heard a door open. Alara stood in the hallway, still in her gala dress. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For defending me. No one's ever done that before." Raphael turned to face her. "Get used to it." She smiled. Small, hesitant, but real. "Don't get soft on me, DeLuca. I married a monster. I'd hate to find out I got a hero instead." "You didn't." "Good." She started back to her room, then paused. "The door. I didn't barricade it tonight." "I noticed. Don't make me regret it." "I won't." She disappeared into her room. This time, Raphael heard only one lock click. Progress, maybe, or just exhaustion. He finished his scotch, went to his own room, lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about a woman who'd been taught that love meant pain and a man who'd forgotten how to feel anything at all. Somewhere between those two broken people, something was starting to shift. It wouldn't be love. Love was for people who believed in happy endings. But it might be something better. Trust, maybe. Or at least the possibility of it. And in Raphael's world, possibilities were dangerous things. They were also the only things worth fighting for. Monday morning arrived with Vincent sitting across from Raphael's desk, a file thick enough to kill someone dropped between them. You wanted everything on Marcus Quinn, Vincent said. This is everything. Raphael opened the folder. Page after page of financial records, wire transfers, property deeds, photographs of Marcus with people who should have been in prison. The man had been busy. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, shell corporations in Delaware, bribes to gang officials, customs agents, 3 city councilmen. Vincent tapped a particularly damning photo. And this is him meeting with the Volkov crew last month. You know what they do. Raphael knew. The Volkovs ran girls, young ones, mostly from Eastern Europe, promised jobs and given nightmares instead. He's been using his legitimate shipping business to move their merchandise, Vincent continued. Human cargo hidden in container shipments. The routes you now control were how they've been operating. Raphael's jaw tightened. How long? At least 4 years? Maybe longer. The paper trail gets murky before that. 4 years. 4 years of Marcus Quinn profiting off human misery while playing the respectable businessman. 4 years of girls disappearing into shipping containers. There's more, Vincent said quietly. About his daughters. Raphael looked up. Alara wasn't the first one he tried to marry off. When she was 19, he arranged a match with someone from the Bratva, Russian mob. The deal fell through when the guy died in a territory dispute. Then there was an oil executive from Dubai, but that one collapsed when Alara tried to run away. Vincent paused. She's got a medical record from that attempt. Broken arm, 3 cracked ribs, fractured jaw, just like she told you. What hospital? St. Mary's. But the attending physician noted that the injuries were inconsistent with a fall. He filed a report with social services. What happened to it? Disappeared. Someone with access to the system made it vanish. My guess? Marcus has people everywhere, just like Alara said. Raphael closed the folder. His hands were shaking again, that fury he'd spent years learning to control threatening to break loose. The younger sisters, he said, are they safe? I spoke with the headmistress at St. Anne's. She confirmed both girls are enrolled, but Marcus is 3 months behind on tuition. She's been sending letters. He hasn't responded. Pay it. Full year plus extra for any special programs they want. And set up a trust that continues payments regardless of what happens with Marcus. Vincent made a note. You want your name on it? No, make it anonymous. I don't want Marcus knowing where the money's coming from. Raphael, what's your play here? Good question. Raphael leaned back in his chair, looking at the folder that contained enough evidence to bury Marcus Quinn for several lifetimes. I could hand this to the FBI, he said slowly. Let them tear him apart. But that takes time, trials, appeals, years of legal maneuvering, and the whole time he's still out there, still a threat. Or I handle it the way I used to handle problems, fast, permanent, no loose ends. Vincent went very quiet. You're talking about killing him. I'm talking about making sure he never hurts anyone again. That's killing him, Raphael, and you promised yourself you were done with that. Remember? 5 years ago, after the Castellano situation, you said no more blood. You were building something legitimate. Raphael remembered. Remembered standing over Castellano's body, watching the life drain out of a man who'd threatened Raphael's operation. Remembered the emptiness afterward, the way violence stopped feeling like protection and started feeling like addiction. He'd walked away from that, built an empire on fear instead of corpses. It had worked, until now. Marcus Quinn doesn't deserve a trial, Raphael said. Maybe not, but Alara deserves a husband who isn't a murderer. She married a monster, she said so herself. She married a man who's trying not to be one anymore. Vincent stood. Look, I get it. What he did to her, what he's still doing, it makes you want to put a bullet in his head. But the second you do that, you become exactly what she's afraid you are.
and you lose any chance of this marriage being something other than another transaction. Raphael wanted to argue, wanted to explain that some people only understood violence, that mercy was weakness in their world, that Marcus Quinn would keep hurting people until someone stopped him permanently. But Vincent was already gone. Raphael sat alone in his office, the folder in front of him, trying to remember when he'd started caring about what Alara thought of him. That evening, he found her in the library again. She'd claimed the same leather chair, her feet tucked under her, absorbed in a different book. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile than she had at the gala. "Tolstoy now?" Raphael asked. She jumped, nearly dropping Anna Karenina. "You have terrible timing. Sorry, I'll go." "No, it's—" She sighed. "Stay. I'm just on edge." Raphael poured himself a drink. Bourbon this time, something smoother than scotch. "Because of Friday?" "Because of everything." She marked her place, set the book aside. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to decide this arrangement isn't worth the hassle and send me back. I'm not sending you anywhere. Everyone sends me somewhere. That's what I'm for. A package to be delivered." Raphael sat in the chair across from her. "Your father's not getting you back." "You keep saying that. I keep meaning it." He took a drink. Vincent finished the background check. "Your father's been busy, trafficking, bribery, fraud, enough to put him away for decades." Alara's face showed no surprise. "I could have told you that." "You knew?" "I didn't have proof, but I'm not stupid. Men don't get as rich as my father by following rules." She pulled her knees up to her chest. "What are you going to do with the information?" "I don't know yet." "Liar, you always know. That's why you're dangerous." She was right. Raphael did know. He'd known the moment Vincent showed him the file, but saying it out loud made it real, and real meant consequences. "I could have him killed," Raphael said quietly. Alara went very still. "Could you?" "One phone call. He'd be dead by morning, made to look like an accident or a robbery or just another unsolved murder. The police wouldn't look too hard. They know what he is." "Then why haven't you?" "Because my attorney thinks it would make me a bad husband." She almost smiled. "Your attorney's probably right." "Probably." Raphael finished his bourbon. "But he's also never watched someone he stopped, started over. He's never had to watch someone suffer because they were trying to protect people they love." Alara's eyes were too bright. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't make this about me. If you're going to kill my father, do it because he's a criminal. Do it because he deserves it. Don't do it because you think it'll fix me. I'm not fixable. Everyone's fixable." "No." Her voice went hard. "Some things, once they're broken, they stay broken. You can glue the pieces back together, but the cracks are still there, and the first time someone applies pressure, it all falls apart again." Raphael wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, that people could heal, that damage wasn't permanent, but he'd seen too much evidence to the contrary, in himself mostly. "Your sisters," he said instead. "The tuition's paid. Full year, plus I set up a trust to cover future expenses." Alara's breath caught. "You what?" "They're safe. Your father can't use them as leverage anymore." "Why would you do that?" "Because you shouldn't have to choose between your safety and theirs." She was crying now, silent tears that tracked down her cheeks, which somehow felt worse than the sobbing from Friday night, like she'd been holding this in for so long that it leaked out without permission. "I don't understand you," she whispered. "One minute you're talking about murder, the next you're protecting children you've never met. What are you?" "Confused," Raphael admitted. "I spent 20 years becoming one thing. Now I'm trying to figure out if I can be something else." "Because of me?" "Because of you." Alara wiped at her face. "That's not fair. I didn't ask to be your moral compass." "No. You just walked into my life and made me realize my moral compass was broken." She laughed. It was watery and half-choked, but it was a laugh. "We're a mess." "Completely." "What are we supposed to do about it?" Raphael didn't have an answer, so instead he asked, "Have you eaten today?" She blinked at the subject change. "What?" "Food. Have you consumed any?" I'm not hungry. You're never hungry.
But you need to eat.
Raphael stood.
Come on, I'm making dinner.
You cook?
I survive. There's a difference. He led her to the kitchen, a massive space with commercial-grade appliances that rarely got used because Raphael lived on takeout and whatever his housekeeper left in the fridge. Alara perched on one of the bar stools, watching him rummage through cabinets.
Pasta okay? He asked. I told you, I'm not hungry. I heard you. I'm making it anyway. He found a box of linguine,
a jar of sauce that was probably expired but smelled fine. My mother used to make pasta every Sunday. It was the only meal we could afford that would stretch for days.
You never talk about your family. Nothing to talk about. Mother died when I was 15. Father was never in the picture. I raised myself. How? Raphael set a pot of water to boil. Started running errands for the neighborhood crew. Small stuff at first, delivering packages, keeping watch, then bigger things.
By 17, I was muscle. By 20, I was running my own operation. And now you own half the city. More than half. He dumped pasta into boiling water. But yeah, I built this from nothing. No connections, no family money, just fear and calculation. Sounds lonely. It was. Is. He stirred the pasta, watching it soften. But lonely was safe. People can't betray you if you don't let them close. Is that why you've never married before? I've never had a reason to. Women were either useful or disposable. Love seemed like a liability. Seems like? I don't know anymore. This thing with you, it's not love, but it's not nothing either. And I don't have a category for that. Alara was quiet for a long moment. I've never had a man cook for me before. Not even your father? Especially not him. In our house, women served, men consumed. That was the rule. Raphael drained the pasta, tossed it with sauce that was definitely expired but tasted fine, divided it onto 2 plates, slid one across to Alara. New rule, he said. In this house, we take care of each other. She looked at the plate like it might explode. I really can't eat. 3 bites, that's all I'm asking. Why do you care? Because you're going to pass out if you keep this up, and I'd rather not explain to a hospital why my wife is malnourished. Alara picked up the fork, twirled pasta around it, took the smallest bite Raphael had ever seen a human take. Good? He asked. It's edible. High praise. He took a bite of his own. It was terrible. Sauce too sweet, pasta overcooked. But Alara took another bite anyway, then a third. They ate in silence. Well, Raphael ate. Alara pushed food around her plate, occasionally taking bites so small they barely counted. But she was trying, which was more than she'd done all week. I got a call today, she said finally. From my sister, the older one, Caroline. Raphael looked up. The school let her call? I gave her this number last month, just in case. Alara set down her fork. She wanted to know if I was okay, said she heard about the wedding from other students whose parents read the society pages. What did you tell her? That I was fine, that everything was perfect, that she should focus on school and not worry about me. Her voice cracked. I lied to her, like I always lie to her. You were protecting her. Was I? Or was I just protecting myself from having to admit how bad things really are? Raphael didn't have an answer for that. So he asked, Do you want to see them? Your sisters? Alara's head snapped up. What? They have break coming up in a few weeks. Thanksgiving. We could bring them here, let you spend time with them. My father would never allow it. Your father doesn't get a vote anymore. I'm your husband. Legally, I have more claim to your family decisions than he does. You do that? Let 2 teenagers invade your pristine penthouse? It's your penthouse too, and they're your family, so yes. Alara stared at him. I don't know what to do with you. That makes 2 of us. She took another bite, then another. By the time she pushed the plate away, she'd eaten maybe a third of the serving, more than Raphael had seen her consume all week. Thank you, she said quietly. For the terrible pasta? For trying. Raphael collected the plates,
loaded them into a dishwasher he barely remembered how to use. When he turned back, Ilara was still sitting there, looking lost. "You can ask me," she said. "Ask you what?" "Whatever questions you've been avoiding. I can see it in your face. You want to know details, what he did, how bad it got. Everyone always wants to know." "I don't need details." "Don't you? You're planning his future. Seems like you should know exactly what you're avenging." Raphael leaned against the counter. "Ilara, the first time I was 14, she said, cutting him off, my mother had been dead for 6 months. He came into my room drunk and angry about something. Business deal gone wrong, I think. He said I looked just like her. Said it was my fault she left him." She was speaking in that flat clinical tone again, the one that meant she'd disconnected from the memory. "He hit me. Not where it would show. He was careful about that. Stomach, ribs, back, places clothes would cover. Then he told me if I ever told anyone, he'd do worse to my sisters, so I didn't tell." "Ilara, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do. Because you need to understand what you're dealing with. This isn't some villain from a movie who can be reformed with enough patience. He's fundamentally broken, and he spent years breaking me to match." Raphael's hands were gripping the counter so hard his knuckles had gone white. "It got worse as I got older," Ilara continued. "More frequent, more violent. He'd go weeks being the perfect father, taking us to dinner, buying us gifts. Then something would trigger him and he'd—" She stopped, breathed. "By the time I was 17, I'd been to the emergency room 4 times. Different hospitals each time, different stories, different doctors who didn't quite believe me but couldn't prove anything." "And no one helped you?" "Why would they? We were the Quinns, wealthy, respected, connected, and I was just a troubled girl with a history of accidents." She met his eyes. "That's what he told people, that I was clumsy, fragile, prone to hurting myself." "That's why you flinched," Raphael said, "at the wedding, why you expected me to hit you." "Every man I've ever known has hit me. Why would you be different?" "Because I'm not him." "You keep saying that, but you're still a violent man who solves problems with fear." "Yes." She blinked. "You're admitting it?" "Why wouldn't I? You're right. I've hurt people, threatened people, built an empire on making others afraid of me. But I've never—" He stopped. "I've done terrible things, Ilara. Things I'm not proud of. But I've never raised a hand to someone weaker than me. Never hurt someone who couldn't fight back. Why not? Because I remember what it felt like. Being 15, being small, having grown men use me as a punching bag because I was easy and available. I swore if I ever got strong enough, I'd never become them." "Did you?" "Did I what? Get strong enough?" Raphael looked at his hands. These hands had broken bones, pulled triggers, signed contracts that destroyed lives. "Yeah, I got strong enough. And I kept my promise. Mostly." "Mostly?" "No one's perfect. I've crossed lines, made exceptions, justified things I shouldn't have. But I've never hit a woman, never hurt a kid. That's the line I won't cross." Ilara was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "My father has no lines." "I know. So when you decide what to do with him, remember that. Remember that he'll keep hurting people until someone stops him. Is that what you want? For me to stop him?" She looked away. "I want to stop wanting him dead. I want to be the kind of person who believes in rehabilitation and second chances. But every time I try to find compassion for him, I remember what he did, what he's still doing, and all I feel is rage. Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so angry all the time, at him, at myself, at the world for letting this happen, and I don't know what to do with it." Raphael moved around the counter, sat on the stool next to hers, careful to maintain distance but close enough to be present. "When I was 17, he said, I killed a man." Ilara's eyes widened. He was one of the neighborhood enforcers. Big guy, mean drunk, liked to hurt people for fun. He cornered me in an alley one night, decided to teach me a lesson about respect. Raphael stared at his hands. "I had a knife. Got lucky. Caught him in the femoral artery. He bled out before anyone could help him." "What happened?" "Nothing.
No one cared that he was dead, but I cared. Spent weeks throwing up every time I closed my eyes, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, thought I was broken.
What changed? I realized rage is just fear wearing a different face. I wasn't angry at him for attacking me.
I was terrified that I'd enjoyed killing him, that some part of me had liked the power. Alara absorbed this. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, that's the part that scared me most. It felt good, felt right, and I knew if I wasn't careful, I'd start looking for reasons to feel that way again. So what did you do? I made rules, lines I wouldn't cross, and I've spent 20 years testing those boundaries, seeing how close I can get without breaking them. How's that working out? Until I met you? Pretty well? Now? Raphael shook his head. Now I want to break every rule I've ever made just to make sure you're safe. And that terrifies me. Alara reached out. Her hand hovered over his, not quite touching. I don't want you to become a monster for me. Too late. I've always been a monster. I'm just trying to be one that doesn't hurt you. That's not the same thing. It's close enough. Her hand settled on his, just for a moment. Then she pulled away, like the contact had burned. I should go, she said. It's late. Alara Sinki, thank you for dinner, for listening, for not pushing. She slid off the stool. And for my sisters, that means more than you know. She left before Raphael could respond. He sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes and the ghost of her touch on his hand. His phone buzzed. Vincent. Tell me you're not doing anything stupid, his attorney said. Define stupid. Well, Marcus Quinn just filed a complaint with the business council, claims you're holding his daughter against her will and interfering with their family relationship. Raphael laughed, actually laughed. He's unbelievable. He's desperate, and desperate men are dangerous. Watch your back. Raphael ended the call, sat in the quiet, thinking about lines that shouldn't be crossed and promises that were getting harder to keep. The next few days developed a rhythm. Alara emerged from her room in the mornings, made coffee she didn't drink, read books in the library. Raphael worked from his office, handled business that was becoming increasingly difficult to focus on. They orbited. Careful, distant, but less hostile than before. On Wednesday, Raphael came home to find her on the phone in the library, crying. I know, she was saying. I know, sweetheart. No, I promise I'm okay. Yes, really. Caroline, listen to me. Raphael started to leave, give her privacy. But then he heard her say, please don't come home for Thanksgiving. It's not safe. Stay at school. Please. He stepped into the room. Alara looked up, eyes red. I have to go, she said into the phone. I love you. Tell Meredith I love her too. Be safe. She ended the call, stared at the phone like it had betrayed her. What happened? Raphael asked. My father called them, told Caroline I was being held prisoner, that you were dangerous, that they needed to come home immediately and help rescue me. Christ. She didn't believe him. Thank God she didn't believe him. But Meredith's only 13. She's terrified. Thinks you're going to hurt me. What did you tell her? The truth. That I married you voluntarily, that I'm safe, that they should stay at school where he can't reach them. Alara's voice broke. I lied to a 13-year-old child because the truth, that their father is a monster and their sister married a criminal to escape him, would destroy her. Raphael pulled out his phone, called Vincent. I need a restraining order, yeah, he said when his attorney answered, against Marcus Quinn, prohibiting contact with his daughters. On what grounds? Harassment, emotional abuse, threatening behavior. I don't care. Make it stick. Raphael, restraining orders take time. Then buy time. File emergency motions. Get a judge who owes us a favor. Just keep him away from those girls. He hung up. Alara was staring at him. You can't keep doing this, she said. Doing what? Trying to fix everything. It's not your job. Then whose job is it? I don't know, but not yours. You're not... She stopped herself. I'm not what? You're not supposed to care this much. This was a business arrangement. You're not supposed to actually protect me. Raphael sat in the chair across from her. What if I do anyway?
Why?
Because someone should. Because you deserve it. Because I'm tired of being the kind of man who doesn't care.
Alara wrapped her arms around herself.
You're going to get hurt.
I've been hurt before.
Not like this. Not by someone who… She stopped again, looked away. Someone who what? Someone who might actually matter to you. The words hung between them. Raphael wanted to deny it. Wanted to say she was just a contract, just a transaction, just another piece of his empire. But sitting there in his library, watching her try not to fall apart, he couldn't make himself lie. You already matter, he said quietly. Don't. Too late. Raphael, I know. This wasn't the deal. You didn't sign up for a husband who actually gives a damn. But that's what you got. So we can either pretend nothing's changed, or we can figure out what this is. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Probably. But it's our disaster. She laughed, that broken sound that was half sob. We're so screwed. Completely. Alara stood, crossed to the window, looked out at the city that had failed her in every possible way. If you kill him, she said, I become complicit. If you let him live, my sisters stay in danger. There's no good answer. No, but there might be a better one. She turned. Like what? Raphael had been thinking about this for days. The file Vincent had given him wasn't just evidence of crimes. It was ammunition, leverage, power. We destroy him, Raphael said, not with violence, with exposure. We leak everything to the press, the FBI, his business partners. We burn his reputation so thoroughly that he becomes radioactive. No one will work with him. No one will protect him. He'll be finished. He'll come after me. Not if he's in prison. And with what Vincent found, that's exactly where he'll end up. Alara considered this. It won't be fast. No, it'll be slow, public, humiliating. He'll watch everything he built crumble while he's powerless to stop it. That's crueler than killing him. Yeah, that's the point. She studied Raphael for a long moment. You'd really do that? Wage a legal war instead of just making him disappear? If that's what you want, why does what I want matter? Because this is your trauma, your choice. I'll support whatever you decide, but I won't make it for you. Alara's eyes filled with tears. No one's ever given me a choice before. Then it's about time someone did. She crossed the room, stood in front of him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she reached out and touched him voluntarily, hand on his shoulder, light and tentative. Destroy him, she said, but do it legally. No blood, no more violence, just justice. Raphael covered her hand with his. Consider it done. The war against Marcus Quinn began quietly, the way most dangerous things do. Vincent leaked the first documents on a Thursday, just enough to make the financial press curious. Offshore accounts that didn't match reported income. Wire transfers to shell corporations with suspicious names. Nothing explicitly criminal, but enough to raise questions. By Friday, 3 business publications had run stories questioning Quinn Shipping International's accounting practices. By Monday, the SEC had opened an inquiry. Raphael watched it unfold from his office, Alara sitting across from him in a chair she'd claimed as her own over the past week. She'd started spending more time here, working through books from his library, occasionally asking questions about his business that were sharper than most of his associates managed. He's going to know it was you, she said, not looking up from her book. Let him know. He'll retaliate. He can try. Raphael signed a contract without reading it, which would have horrified Vincent if he'd known. The restraining order was approved this morning. He can't contact your sisters. Can't come within 500 feet of them. Paper doesn't stop bullets. Raphael looked up. You think he'd actually… I think when men like him feel cornered, they do desperate things. She finally met his eyes. You're backing him into a corner. Would you rather I didn't? I don't know. She closed the book. Part of me wants to watch him burn. The other part is terrified of what he'll do before the fire catches. Raphael's phone buzzed. Marco. We have a situation, his head of security said. Marcus Quinn just showed up at the building. He's in the lobby demanding to see his daughter. I'm on my way. Raphael stood, grabbing his jacket. To Alara. Stay here. Lock the door.
What's happening? Your father's downstairs. Her face went pale. He can't be here.
The restraining order doesn't mean anything if I don't enforce it. Raphael was already moving. Lock the door, Alara. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marco. He left before she could argue, taking the private elevator down to the lobby. Marcus was there, looking worse than at the gala, suit wrinkled, eyes wild, shouting at the security guards who were trying to maintain professional distance. I have a right to see my daughter, Marcus was saying. You can't keep her from me. Raphael stepped out of the elevator. Every conversation in the lobby stopped. You have no rights here, Raphael said calmly, and you're in violation of a court order. Leave or I'll have you arrested. Marcus spun around. You son of a bitch! You think you can steal my daughter and destroy my business? I didn't steal anything. You sold her to me, remember? Contracts filed with the city. Very legal, very binding. That contract was for a marriage, not a kidnapping. She's not kidnapped. She's safe, which is more than she ever was with you. Marcus lunged, got maybe 2 steps before Marco appeared from nowhere, catching him by the collar and lifting him off his feet like he weighed nothing. Mr. Quinn, Marco said pleasantly, you need to leave. This isn't over. Marcus struggled against Marco's grip. You can't keep her from me forever, DeLuca. She's my daughter. She's my wife, and she doesn't want to see you. Liar, Alara. Marcus was screaming now. Alara, I know you can hear me. Baby, just talk to me. Tell him you want to come home. Silence. The lobby was full of people, residents, staff, delivery personnel, all watching this scene unfold like it was theater. Get him out, Raphael said quietly. Marco nodded, started walking Marcus toward the door. The older man fought every step, still screaming, You're going to regret this, both of you. I'll make you pay, you hear me? I'll make you... The door closed, cut off Marcus's threats mid-sentence. Raphael turned to the gathered crowd. Show's over. Back to your business. They dispersed slowly, whispering to each other. Raphael could already imagine the stories spreading, DeLuca's crazy father-in-law causing scenes, the bride who never appeared, speculation about what was really happening on the 32nd floor. He rode the elevator back up, found Alara exactly where he'd left her, standing by the window, arms wrapped around herself. I heard him. She said. I know. He sounded... Her voice cracked. He almost sounded like he cared. He doesn't care about you, Alara. He cares about control, about losing his property. I know that. In my head, I know that. But there's this stupid part of me that still hopes... She stopped, pressed her palms against her eyes. I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot. You're someone who wanted a father who loved her. That's not stupid. That's human. Human is overrated. Raphael crossed to her, stood close but didn't touch. He violated the restraining order. I can have him arrested. Don't. Why not? Because then it becomes public. The arrest, the order, all of it. People will ask questions, dig into why a father needs a restraining order to stay away from his daughter. She lowered her hands. I'm not ready for that story to be public. It's going to come out eventually. When the criminal charges hit, when the trafficking investigation goes public, I know, but not today, please. Raphael pulled out his phone, called his attorney. Don't file charges for the restraining order violation, he said when Vincent answered, but document everything. Video footage, witness statements, the works. We'll use it later. You're being soft, Vincent said. I'm being strategic. There's a difference. He ended the call. Alara was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What? Raphael asked. You listen to me. When I ask for something, you actually listen. Why wouldn't I? Because no one ever has before. She turned back to the window. My whole life, men have told me what to do, where to go, who to be. No one's ever asked what I wanted. What do you want? The question seemed to catch her off guard. She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the city. I want to not be afraid anymore, she said finally. I want to wake up without wondering if today's the day someone hurts me. I want to see my sisters without it being a negotiation or a threat. I want... She stopped. I want things I'm not allowed to want. Like what? Like a life that's actually mine. Raphael moved to stand beside her. They looked out at the city together, this sprawling mess of ambition and damage that had shaped them both. "You have a life," he said. "It might not be the one you imagined, but it's yours." "Is it? Or is it just another cage with better furniture?" "I don't know. You tell me. Do you feel caged?" Alara considered this. "Less than I did, but I'm still waiting for the door to slam shut. What if it doesn't? Then I'll be the girl who married a criminal and pretended it was freedom. Or you'll be the woman who survived and built something new." She almost smiled. "You're very optimistic for someone who kills people for a living." "I don't kill people for a living. I just create circumstances where they stop being problems." "That's the same thing." "Philosophically, maybe. Legally, there's an important distinction." Now she did smile. Small, fleeting, but real. "You're ridiculous. I'm practical." "Same thing." They stood there in comfortable silence until Ilara's phone rang. She checked the screen, and her entire body went rigid. "It's Caroline," she said. "Answer it." She did, putting it on speaker. "Ilara?" Caroline's voice was shaking. "Something's wrong." "What happened?" "Dad just called. He's saying crazy things about Mr. DeLuca, about you being in danger. He wants us to leave school, come home right away. But the headmistress says we can't because of some court order?" Her words tumbled out fast, panicked. "What's going on? Are you okay? Is he hurting you?" Ilara closed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was steady, calm, the voice of someone who'd spent years learning to lie convincingly. "I'm fine, Caroline, I promise. He's not handling the marriage well. He's upset about losing control of the business arrangement. But I'm safe. Mr. DeLuca hasn't hurt me. Then why is there a restraining order? Because Dad showed up here making threats. It's just a precaution." "Ilara," Caroline's voice dropped. "Tell me the truth, please. I'm 17, not 7. I know something's wrong. I've known for years." Ilara's breath caught. Raphael watched her struggle with the decision, lie to protect her sister, or trust her with his truth. "Put Meredith on the phone too, Sidkus," Ilara said finally. "Three-way call. I'm only saying this once." A moment later, a younger voice joined. "Lara?" "Hey, Mare. I need you both to listen, okay? Really listen." Ilara sat down, and Raphael sat beside her. "Dad's not a good man. He never was. And the things he did to me—" Her voice broke. "I can't get into details, but I married Mr. DeLuca to get away from him, to protect you both." Silence on the other end. "I knew it," Caroline whispered. "I knew he was hurting you. I didn't know how to stop it." "You couldn't have stopped it. Neither could I. But I'm out now, and you're safe at school. The restraining order means he can't pull you out, can't bring you home. You're protected." "What about you?" Meredith's voice was small. "Are you really safe with him, with Mr. DeLuca?" Ilara looked at Raphael. He nodded, giving permission for whatever she needed to say. "Yeah," Ilara said. "I really am." "Does he know?" Caroline asked. "About Dad? About what he did to you?" "He knows. And he's not like that?" "No, Ilara stopped, started over. "He's different. Dangerous in other ways, but not to me. Never to me." "I want to meet him," Caroline said. "Thanksgiving break. Can we come visit?" Ilara looked at Raphael again. He nodded. "Yeah," Ilara said. "You can come for Thanksgiving, but there are rules. You don't go anywhere without security. You don't talk to Dad if he tries to contact you. And you trust me when I say someone's not safe." "Okay," Caroline said. "We can do that." "Lara?" Meredith's voice was quiet. "I'm scared." "Me too, sweetheart, but we're going to be okay. All of us. I promise." They talked for a few more minutes, logistics, reassurances, the kind of mundane details that felt bizarre given the conversation they'd just had. When Ilara finally hung up, she sat there staring at the phone. "I just told my baby sisters their father's a monster," she said. "They already knew. You just confirmed it. That doesn't make it better." "No, but it's honest, and honesty's how you start to heal." Ilara laughed.
that hollow sound. When did you become a therapist? I'm not. I'm just someone who spent 20 years lying to himself about who he was. I know where that road ends. Where? Alone, angry, wondering when you became the villain in your own story. She looked at him. Really looked. Is that what you are, the villain? I used to think so. Now I don't know. What changed? You, Raphael said simply. You changed everything. Before Alara could respond, his phone rang. Vincent. We have a problem, his attorney said. Marcus just filed an emergency motion claiming Alara's being held against her will. He's requesting a welfare check and a psychiatric evaluation. He's insane. He's desperate. And he's got a judge who's sympathetic. You need to be prepared for authorities to show up. Raphael looked at Alara. How do you feel about talking to a court-appointed psychiatrist? I feel like telling them the truth would land me in a psychiatric ward, and my father would use it to prove I'm unstable. So we don't tell them everything, just enough to show you're here voluntarily and of sound mind. I hate this, Alara said. I hate that he still has this much power. He won't for long. The FBI's moving on the trafficking case. They'll have him in custody within a week. A week is a long time when someone's trying to prove you're crazy. Vincent was still on the line. Raphael, the welfare check is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Make sure Alara is presentable and coherent, and for the love of God, don't let her mention any actual abuse. They'll use it to argue she's traumatized and needs to be removed for her own protection. So she has to pretend everything's fine. She has to pretend she's a newlywed who's happy with her life choices. Can she do that? Raphael looked at Alara. She nodded. She can do that, Raphael said. The welfare check arrived exactly on time. 2 social workers and a police officer, all carrying clipboards and wearing expressions that suggested they'd rather be anywhere else. Alara met them in the living room, dressed in soft clothes that Vincent had selected to make her look comfortable but put together. Raphael stood beside her, the picture of a concerned husband. Mrs. DeLuca, the older social worker said. She was maybe 50, gray hair pulled back, eyes that had seen too much to be easily fooled. I'm Margaret Hayes. We're here because your father filed a complaint. I know, Alara said. Her voice was steady, calm. He's upset about my marriage. He claims you're being held here against your will. I'm not. I can leave whenever I want. Alara gestured to the door. Should I prove it? Walk out right now? Margaret's expression didn't change. That won't be necessary. Can you tell me about your relationship with Mr. DeLuca? We married 3 weeks ago. Business arrangement that became personal. He's been... Alara paused, choosing words carefully. He's been kind to me. Kind how? He respects my space, doesn't pressure me, lets me make my own choices. And your father? What's your relationship with him? This was the dangerous part. Raphael watched Alara navigate it like she was walking through a minefield. Complicated, Alara said. He didn't approve of the marriage. We've had disagreements about my life choices. Has he ever hurt you? Silence. Alara's hands were shaking slightly. She clasped them together. Define hurt, she said finally. Margaret leaned forward. Physically, emotionally, financially. Any form of harm. My father has expectations. When I don't meet them, there are consequences. But that's just how he is. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you. Alara met the social worker's eyes. I'm 23 years old, legally an adult. I chose to marry Raphael. I chose to live here, and I'm choosing to stay. That should be enough. It would be, except your medical records show a pattern of injuries consistent with abuse. Raphael's jaw tightened. How the hell had they accessed her medical records? Old injuries, Alara said. From before I married, I'm safe now. Safe with a man known for criminal activities? Alleged criminal activities, Raphael interjected. Never convicted. Margaret ignored him. Mrs. DeLuca, if you're afraid, if someone's threatening you, we can help. There are resources. I don't need resources. I need people to respect my choices. Alara's voice was getting harder now. My father is trying to control me through you. Don't let him. The other social worker, a younger man who'd been silent until now, spoke up. Can we see the rest of the apartment? Why? Raphael asked. Standard procedure for welfare checks. Fine. Look around. You won't find any dungeons or chains. They did a sweep. Bedrooms, kitchen, bathrooms, even Raphael's office. Took photos, made notes, asked invasive questions about sleeping arrangements and financial control and whether Alara had access to her own money. By the time they finished, Alara looked exhausted, defeated. We'll file our report, Margaret said. But Mrs. DeLuca, I want you to have this. She handed Alara a card. It's a hotline. If you ever need help, call it, day or night. I won't need it, Alara said. Keep it anyway. After they left, Alara collapsed onto the couch. That was horrible, she said. You did well. I lied to them. They were trying to help, and I lied. You told them what you needed to tell them to maintain control of your life. That's just another way of saying I lied. She looked at the card Margaret had given her. They think you're holding me prisoner. Are you? What? Do you feel like a prisoner? Alara thought about it. No, but I don't feel free either. I feel like I'm in limbo, waiting for the next disaster. The next disaster is your father getting arrested. That's a disaster for him, not you. You sound very confident. I am confident. Vincent's been coordinating with the FBI. They have enough evidence to charge Marcus with trafficking, conspiracy, fraud, and about 6 other felonies. He's done. When? Soon, maybe days. Alara was quiet for a long time. Then she said, What happens after? After what? After he's arrested, after the trial, after everything falls apart. What happens to us? Raphael sat beside her. What do you want to happen? I don't know. This whole thing started as a transaction, but it doesn't feel like that anymore. What does it feel like? Like we're two broken people trying to figure out if broken pieces can fit together? She looked at him. Can they? I don't know, but I'm willing to try if you are. Before Alara could respond, Raphael's phone rang. Vincent. They're moving tonight, his attorney said without preamble. FBI's arresting Marcus at his house in 2 hours. They wanted to give you advance notice. Why? Professional courtesy. And because they know Alara's his daughter. They're sending someone to brief her on what to expect. Raphael looked at Alara. The FBI is arresting your father tonight. Her face went blank. Oh. They're sending someone to talk to you first. I don't want to talk to anyone. You don't have to. I can send them away. She shook her head. No, I should hear it, know what's happening. The FBI agent arrived an hour later. Special Agent Chen, mid-40s, tired eyes, the kind of person who'd seen humanity at its worst and somehow kept going. Mrs. DeLuca, she said, shaking Alara's hand, I'm here to explain what's going to happen with your father. He's going to jail. Yes, but the process is complicated. Chen pulled out a folder. We have evidence of human trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The charges carry significant prison time, but building a case takes time. There will be arraignment, bail hearings, possibly a trial. How long? 6 months minimum. Could be years if he fights it. Alara's hands were shaking again. And during that time? He'll likely make bail, which means he'll be out, restricted by court order, but still able to operate. So nothing really changes. Mrs. DeLuca, your father's life as he knows it is over. His business is being seized, his assets frozen, his reputation destroyed. Even if he makes bail, he'll be a pariah. You don't know him. He'll find a way. He always finds a way. Chen's expression softened. We have testimony from victims, women he trafficked. They're brave enough to speak. That's not something he can manipulate away. He'll threaten them, hurt their families, make them recant. We're protecting them. Witness protection, relocation, the full program. And me? My sisters? Are we protected? You're married to Raphael DeLuca. You're probably the safest person in this city. Alara laughed. That broken sound Raphael was learning to hate.
That's what everyone keeps telling me. After Chen left, Ilara went to her room, locked the door, didn't come out for the rest of the night. Raphael sat in his office, watching news alerts on his phone. At exactly 9 p.m., the story broke. Marcus Quinn arrested, FBI raids on multiple properties, allegations of trafficking and fraud. The headlines were brutal. The Quinn empire was burning, and Raphael had lit the match. He should have felt triumphant, victorious. This was what he did: destroyed enemies, protected his interests, won wars before they started. Instead, he felt empty. Around midnight, he heard footsteps. Ilara appeared in his doorway, wrapped in an oversized sweatshirt, eyes red from crying. "Is it done?" she asked. "Yeah, he's in custody." "Good." She didn't sound convinced. "You can say it, you know." "Say what?" "That you're not okay with this. That part of you still wishes things were different." Ilara leaned against the doorframe. "I wish I had a father who loved me. I wish the man who was supposed to protect me hadn't spent years destroying me. I wish—" Her voice cracked. "I wish I was the kind of person who could forgive him." "You don't have to forgive him." "Don't I? Isn't that what good people do? Good people protect themselves. Everything else is optional." She was crying now, silent tears that tracked down her face. Raphael stood, crossed to her, stopped just short of touching. "Tell me what you need," he said. "I don't know. I don't know what I need or what I want or who I'm supposed to be now that he's gone." "You're supposed to be whoever you want to be." "What if I don't know how?" Raphael finally closed the distance, pulled her into a hug that was awkward and tentative in the first real physical contact they'd had that wasn't for cameras or show. Ilara stiffened, then relaxed, then collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest. "I hate him," she said between sobs. "I hate him so much, and I hate that I still love him. I hate that part of me wants to call him and make sure he's okay. What's wrong with me?" "Nothing's wrong with you. He's your father. It's complicated. It shouldn't be. He hurt me. He sold me. He threatened my sisters. It should be simple." Nothing about family is simple. They stood there for a long time, Ilara crying, Raphael holding her, both of them trying to figure out how two people this damaged could possibly help each other heal. Finally, Ilara pulled back, wiped at her face. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For destroying him. For protecting my sisters. For—" She gestured vaguely. "For this. Whatever this is. This is me trying to be better than I was. How's that working out? Ask me in a year." She almost smiled. "Can I stay here tonight, in your office? I don't want to be alone." "You can stay wherever you want." Ilara curled up on the couch. Raphael grabbed a blanket from somewhere, covered her with it, went back to his desk, pretending to work while actually just watching her fall asleep. Somewhere in the city, Marcus Quinn sat in a holding cell, probably already calling lawyers, planning his defense, plotting revenge. But here in the penthouse, his daughter slept peacefully for the first time in years. And Raphael DeLuca, criminal, empire builder, monster with good lawyers, sat guard over her like she was something precious. Because she was. And maybe that was the point. Raphael woke to find Ilara still asleep on his office couch, the blanket twisted around her legs, one arm hanging off the edge. Morning light cut through the windows, harsh and unforgiving. She looked younger like this, vulnerable in a way she never let herself be when awake. His phone was already buzzing. 12 missed calls from Vincent, 8 from Marco. 23 news alerts about Marcus Quinn's arrest. He stepped into the hallway to take Vincent's call. "Have you seen the news?" his attorney asked. "Some of it. It's everywhere. Quinn's face on every channel. The trafficking allegations, the offshore accounts, everything. His legal team is already spinning it as a politically motivated attack. Let them spin. The evidence speaks for itself." "Raphael, there's something else." Vincent paused. "Quinn made bail." Raphael's hand tightened on the phone. "How? The charges? He's got friends in high places. Judge set bail at $5 million. He posted it in 2 hours. Where is he now?" "House arrest, ankle monitor. Can't leave his property, but he's already making calls, reaching out to associates. He's not going quietly." Raphael looked back toward his office, where Alara still slept. Increase security, double the guards on the building, and get eyes on Quinn's house. I want to know everyone who comes and goes. Already done. But Raphael, there's more. Quinn's attorney filed a motion this morning. He wants visitation rights with Alara. Claims parental privilege supersedes the restraining order. That's insane. That's expensive lawyers. The hearing's in 3 days. Raphael ended the call, stood in the hallway trying to control the rage building in his chest. Marcus Quinn had been arrested, exposed, humiliated, and somehow he was still finding ways to terrorize his daughter. Back in the office, Alara was awake, sitting up, staring at nothing. He made bail, she said, not a question. How did you? I know him. Of course he made bail. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself. He's coming for me, isn't he? He's on house arrest. He can't physically come anywhere. That's not what I meant. Raphael sat in the chair across from her. His attorney filed for visitation rights. Alara's laugh was bitter. Of course he did. Can't control me directly, so he'll use the courts. It's what he does. The hearing's in 3 days. Vincent's already preparing a counter motion. It won't matter. He'll have a judge in his pocket. They'll say a daughter should see her father, that family bonds are sacred, that I'm being manipulated by you. She looked at Raphael. And maybe they're right. You're not being manipulated? Aren't I? I married a stranger to escape my father. Now that stranger is fighting legal battles on my behalf. How is that different from being controlled? Nishits. Because you have a choice. You can walk away anytime. Can I? Where would I go? Back to him? Out on my own with no money, no job, no way to protect my sisters? She stood, started pacing. I traded one cage for another. At least this one has better bars. Raphael wanted to argue, wanted to prove she was wrong, but watching her pace his office in yesterday's clothes, looking lost and small and furious, he wasn't sure he could. What do you want? He asked. I want to not have this conversation. I want to wake up and have my biggest problem be what to eat for breakfast. I want... She stopped. I want to hit something. What? I'm so angry. All the time, and I don't know what to do with it except swallow it down and pretend I'm fine. But I'm not fine. I'm never fine. She turned to face him. Do you have a gym? Yeah, 3rd floor. Why? Show me. The gym was empty this early. Raphael rarely used it himself. He preferred running, something that got him out of the building, away from the constant pressure of being Raphael DeLuca. But the equipment was top-notch, because everything in this building was top-notch. Alara went straight to the heavy bag hanging in the corner, ran her hands over the leather. I don't know how to do this, she said. Hit it. Just hit it? However feels right. She pulled back and punched the bag. Her form was terrible. No power, no follow-through, thumb tucked inside her fist where it could break. But she hit it again and again, harder each time. You're going to hurt yourself, Raphael said. Here, let me... He moved behind her, adjusting her stance, showing her how to pivot from the hips, how to keep her wrists straight. His hands on her shoulders guiding her through the motion. Like this, he said. She pulled back and threw a proper punch. The bag swung. She stared at it, then hit it again. And again. Building rhythm, building force, building something that looked like rage finally finding an outlet. Raphael stepped back, watched her work. Each punch landed harder than the last, her breathing getting ragged, her whole body throwing itself into the movement. He told me I was weak, she said between punches, that I bruised too easily, that I wasn't strong enough to survive without him. Punch, punch, punch. He said I was lucky anyone wanted me, that I should be grateful he found someone willing to take me. Lassi sais spotits. Punch, punch. He said I was broken, that no one would ever, Her voice cracked. She hit the bag so hard her knuckles split, blood on leather. Alara, stop. No. She kept hitting. I'm not weak. I'm not broken. I'm not... Raphael caught her from behind, wrapping his arms around her, pinning her arms to her sides. She fought him, actually fought, thrashing and screaming and trying to break free. Let me go. You're bleeding. Alara, stop. I don't care. Let me go. But he didn't, just held her until the fight drained out, until she was sobbing against him, until her knees gave out and he had to support her weight. They ended up on the floor. Raphael's back against the wall, Alara curled against his chest, crying so hard she could barely breathe. "I hate this," she gasped. "I hate being this person. I hate that he still has this much power over me. He doesn't." "Yes, he does. Every time I look in a mirror, I hear his voice. Every time someone touches me, I flinch. Every time I try to be normal, I remember I don't know how." She pulled back enough to look at him. "How do you do it?" "Do what?" "Live with what you've done, the people you've hurt. How do you just keep going?" Raphael looked at his hands, these hands that had broken bones and signed death warrants and built an empire on fear. "I don't think about it," he said. "I just compartmentalize. Put it in a box, lock it away, pretend it doesn't exist." "Does that work?" "No, but it's better than the alternative." "Which is?" "Drowning in it, letting it consume you until there's nothing left but guilt and self-hatred." He met her eyes. "You're not broken, Alara. You're hurt. There's a difference." "How do you know?" "Because broken things don't fight back, and you're still fighting." She looked at her bleeding knuckles. "This is fighting?" "Yeah, messy, imperfect, but fighting." He stood, helped her up. "Come on, let's get those cleaned up." In the bathroom, Raphael ran her hands under cold water while she winced. The cuts weren't deep, but they'd bruise. "I was stupid," she said. "You were angry. There's a difference." "You keep saying that there's a difference between things that feel the same. Because there is. Anger and stupidity, hurt and broken, fear and weakness. People use them interchangeably, but they're not the same." "What's the difference between fear and weakness?" Raphael wrapped her knuckles in gauze. "Fear is a response. Weakness is giving up. You're afraid all the time, but you haven't given up. That makes you stronger than most people I know." "I don't feel strong." "Neither do I, but we're both still here." They were standing too close. Raphael became aware of it suddenly, the small bathroom, the intimacy of holding her hand, the way she was looking at him like he might actually understand. He stepped back. "You should rest." "I don't want to rest. I want—" She stopped. "Can I ask you something?" "Yeah." "When you killed that man, the one from the alley, did you regret it?" Raphael had to think about the answer. "I regretted that it happened, that the world was the kind of place where a 17-year-old kid had to kill someone to survive. But the act itself, no. It was him or me." "What if it wasn't self-defense? What if you killed someone because they deserved it?" "Where's this going, Alara? If something happened to him, if he died, would you regret it?" "Are you asking if I'd kill him?" "I'm asking if you'd regret it if you did." Raphael studied her face, trying to figure out what she really wanted to know. "I'd regret what it cost, not the act itself." "What would it cost?" "You, your trust. Any chance of this," he gestured between them, "being something other than a transaction." Alara was quiet for a long moment. "What if I asked you to do it anyway?" "I'd say no." "Why?" "Because you'd hate yourself afterward. And you'd hate me. And I'm trying really hard not to give you more reasons to do either of those things." "What if I already hate myself?" "Then I'm not making it worse." She laughed, that sound that was half sob, half surrender. "You're a good man pretending to be bad. I'm a bad man trying to be better. There's a difference." "Stop saying that. Stop making me need to." They stood there in the bathroom, bloodied gauze on the counter, too many unsaid things hanging between them. Finally, Alara said, "The hearing. In 3 days. I need to be there. Vincent can represent you. You don't have to, I have to face him. If I don't, he wins. He gets to keep controlling me through fear." She straightened her shoulders. "I'm testifying. I'm telling them everything he did, and I'm making sure he never gets near me or my sisters again. Alara, if you do that, it goes public. Everything. Your medical records, the abuse, all of it. I know. People will talk,
They'll question why you didn't speak up sooner. They'll blame you. I know that too. Her jaw set. But my sisters need to see that you can fight back, that you don't have to just take it. And I need, her voice cracked. I need to stop being afraid. Raphael wanted to argue, wanted to protect her from the ugliness that was coming. But he recognized that look in her eyes, that determination. She'd made up her mind. Okay, he said, then we fight. The next 3 days were preparation. Vincent coached Alara on testimony, what to say, what to avoid, how to handle cross-examination. Raphael sat in on every session, watching her transform from terrified victim to something harder, angrier. He's going to try to break you, Vincent said during one session. His attorney will question your memory, your motives, your mental state. They'll paint you as an unstable young woman manipulated by a criminal husband. Let them try, Alara said. It won't be easy. They'll bring up the psychiatric evaluation request, the welfare check. They'll suggest you're not competent to make your own decisions. I'm competent enough to tell the truth. Vincent looked at Raphael. She's ready. Raphael wasn't so sure, but Alara had that look again, the one that said arguing would be pointless. The night before the hearing, Alara couldn't sleep. Raphael found her in the library at 2 a.m., staring at a book without reading it. Second thoughts? He asked. 10th thoughts. 100th thoughts. She set the book down. I keep thinking about what happens after. After what? After I testify. After everyone knows what he did. After I'm not just Alara Quinn anymore. I'm the girl whose father... She stopped. I become a story. A cautionary tale. Poor little rich girl. People will either pity me or blame me. Probably both. That's not comforting. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to be honest. Raphael sat across from her. The truth is, this is going to be hard. People are going to be cruel. The media is going to pick it apart, and your father's going to do everything he can to destroy your credibility. So why am I doing this? Because the alternative is letting him win, letting fear dictate your choices for the rest of your life. He leaned forward. You asked me once how I live with what I've done. The answer is, I made a choice. I decided I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm pretending to be. You're making the same choice. What if I'm not strong enough? You are. You've been surviving him for years. This is just a different kind of survival. Alara pulled her knees to her chest. Will you be there? At the hearing? Do you want me to be? I don't know. Part of me wants you there. Part of me thinks it'll make things worse. His attorney will use you against me. They're going to do that anyway. I know, but... She looked at him. If you're there, I might actually believe I can do this. And if I believe it and fail anyway, it'll hurt more. You won't fail. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise I'll be there regardless, in the courtroom or outside it. Your choice. She thought about it. Outside. I need to do this part on my own. The courthouse was a circus. News vans, protesters, photographers all crowding the steps. Raphael watched from his car across the street, while Alara and Vincent made their way through the crowd. She looked small in her black dress and jacket. Professional, composed. Nothing like the woman who'd cried herself to sleep on his office couch 3 nights ago. Marco was beside Raphael in the car, monitoring multiple phone feeds. Quinn's attorney just arrived, Marco said. 3 associates with him. They're loading for bear. What about Marcus? Transport just pulled up. Ankle monitors being verified. Raphael watched Marcus Quinn emerge from the police car. He looked thinner than before. Gray. But his eyes were the same, cold, calculating, already working the angles. The hearing took 4 hours. Raphael spent them pacing the car, checking his phone every 30 seconds, trying not to think about what was happening inside that building. Finally, Vincent emerged. Alone. Raphael was out of the car before it fully stopped. Where's Alara? Still inside, talking to the victim's advocate. Vincent looked exhausted. She did it. She testified. All of it. The abuse, the trafficking, knowledge, everything. And? Marcus's attorney tried to tear her apart, called her mentally unstable, claimed she was lying for your benefit, suggested the marriage itself was coerced. Vincent paused. She didn't break, not once. She looked her father in the eye and detailed every single thing he did to her. Jesus.
But the judge ruled in her favor. Restraining order stands. No visitation rights. Marcus is to have zero contact with Alara or her sisters. Relief flooded through Raphael. So it's over. Not quite. Quinn's attorney requested a recess. They're regrouping. Vincent's expression darkened. Raphael, Marcus tried to approach Alara during a break. Marco's guys stopped him, but he was yelling, saying she was making a mistake, that she'd regret betraying family. Where is she now? Conference room, second floor. She asked to be alone. Raphael was already moving, took the courthouse steps 3 at a time, flashed credentials that shouldn't have worked but did because money and fear opened most doors. Found the conference room where Alara sat alone at a long table, still in her testimony clothes, staring at nothing. I told you to wait outside, she said without looking up. You did. I didn't listen. Raphael closed the door. Vincent told me what happened. Which part? Where I detailed my father's abuse to a room full of strangers, or where he screamed at me in the hallway? Both. The first part was easier. She finally looked at him. Her makeup was smeared from crying, but her eyes were clear. I thought seeing him would break me, but I just felt nothing. He's just a man, pathetic, small, not the monster I built him up to be. That's good. Is it? Because now I don't know what I've been afraid of all these years. If he's not this all-powerful demon, what was I running from? Raphael sat beside her. The idea of him, the version in your head, sometimes that's scarier than reality. I wasted so much time being afraid. You survived. That's not wasting time. Alara turned to face him fully. When I was testifying, when his attorney was trying to make me look crazy, you know what kept me going? What? Thinking about you. About how you took me in when you didn't have to. How you protected my sisters. How you're trying to be better even though it's hard. She reached out, took his hand. I haven't said thank you. Not really. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You saved my life. Maybe not in a dramatic movie way, but in all the small ways that actually matter. And I need you to know that I see it. Raphael looked at their joined hands. I'm not a hero, Alara. I know, but you're mine. The words hung between them, heavier than they should be, meaning more than either of them was ready to acknowledge. Before Raphael could respond, the door opened. Vincent, looking grim. We have a problem. Marcus collapsed in the holding cell. They're taking him to the hospital. Alara's hand tightened on Raphael's. What happened? Heart attack maybe, or he's faking it. Either way, the hearing's postponed until he's cleared medically. Of course it is. Alara stood. He'd rather die than lose. That's who he is. They drove back to the penthouse in silence. Alara stared out the window, watching the city pass. Raphael wanted to say something comforting, but everything he thought of sounded hollow. Back home, Alara went straight to her room. Raphael gave her space, but an hour later he heard crashing sounds. Ran down the hall to find her destroying her bedroom. Books thrown against walls. Lamps shattered. The mattress half off the bed. Alara in the center of it all, breathing hard, looking at the destruction with something like satisfaction. Feel better? Raphael asked from the doorway. Not even a little bit, but she was almost smiling. I wanted to break something that wasn't me for once. Fair enough. Need help? With what? Breaking things. I'm pretty good at it. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're ridiculous. So I've been told. He stepped into the room, picked up a decorative vase that probably cost a fortune. This one? Sure. He threw it against the wall. It shattered spectacularly. Alara picked up another. Threw it. Missed the wall entirely, hit the ceiling fan. Your aim needs work, Raphael said. Shut up. They destroyed the room together, not in anger, in something closer to catharsis, release. By the time they finished, the floor was covered in glass and porcelain and the remnants of expensive furniture. I'll have this cleaned up, Raphael said. Don't, not yet. Alara sat in the middle of the destruction. I want to look at it for a while. Proof that I can break things too.
Raphael sat beside her. They stayed there surrounded by wreckage, two broken people trying to figure out what came next. My sisters arrive tomorrow, Elara said eventually. For Thanksgiving. I remember. I don't know how to explain any of this to them. My boss is Swatemin. You don't have to explain everything. Just tell them the truth. That you're safe now. That they're safe. Everything else can wait. What if it can't? What if my father... She stopped. What if he dies? And I never get to say everything I need to say? Then you live with it, like the rest of us do. That's not comforting either. I'm really bad at this comfort thing. Yeah, you are. She leaned against his shoulder, just for a moment. But you're here, that counts for something. They sat in the wreckage of Elara's room until the sun set and the city lights came on. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. Because sometimes the only thing you could do was sit in the mess you'd made and try to figure out how to start cleaning it up. And sometimes that was enough. Caroline and Meredith arrived the next morning looking like they'd dressed for battle. Caroline in dark jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than it should. Meredith in clothes that were trying too hard to make her look older than 13. Both of them carrying overnight bags and expressions that said they weren't sure what they'd walked into. Elara met them in the lobby. Raphael hung back, giving them space for the reunion. He watched Caroline hug her sister tight enough to hurt, watched Meredith cry into Elara's shoulder, watched all three of them hold on to each other like they were afraid someone would tear them apart again. Is it true? Caroline asked, pulling back. About Dad? Everything the news is saying? Most of it, maybe all of it. Elara wiped at her eyes. Come on, let's go upstairs. We can talk there. They rode the elevator in silence. Raphael followed at a distance, aware he was an outsider in this moment. When they reached the penthouse, both girls stopped in the entryway, taking in the space. This is where you live? Meredith asked. Yeah, it's a lot, I know. It's like something from a movie. Caroline turned to Raphael. You must be the husband. Raphael. He extended his hand. She shook it, grip firm, eyes assessing, deciding whether he was another threat or something else. Caroline, this is Meredith. She kept herself between Raphael and her younger sister, protective. Thanks for having us. And for the school thing, the tuition. Your family, it's what family does. We're not really family, Meredith said quietly. You just married our sister. Elara said. It's fine. Raphael looked at the youngest twin sister. You're right, we're not family yet, but I'm hoping we get there. Why? Meredith's eyes were too old for 13. What do you get out of it? Smart kid, asking the question everyone should ask but rarely did. Your sister, Raphael said simply. I get her. That's enough. Caroline and Meredith exchanged a look. Some silent sister communication Raphael couldn't decode. We should let you guys catch up, Raphael said. I'll be in my office if you need anything. He left them in the living room. Could hear their voices through the wall, Elara's low and steady, Caroline's sharp with questions, Meredith's quiet interjections. He tried to focus on work but gave up after 20 minutes of reading the same contract paragraph. Vincent called. Marcus is stable, his attorney said. Mild heart attack. Real, not faked. He's in the hospital under guard. When's the hearing reconvene? 2 weeks. Judge wants him fully recovered before proceeding. Vincent paused. His attorneys already filed motions. They're claiming the stress of Elara's testimony caused the heart attack, trying to paint her as the aggressor. That's ridiculous. That's legal strategy. They're going to argue she's emotionally unstable, that her accusations are revenge for a strict upbringing, that you've manipulated her into destroying her own father. Raphael's hand tightened on the phone. Can they make it stick? In court? Probably not. In public opinion? Maybe. The media is already running with the angle, dutiful daughter turned against her father by a criminal husband. I don't care what the media thinks. Elara might, and her sisters definitely will. They're going to get targeted. Questions at school, social media harassment, the whole nightmare. Raphael hadn't thought about that, about how this would follow Caroline and Meredith, how other kids would treat them once the story fully broke. Increased security at the school. he said, "and get me a meeting with the headmistress. I want to know what they're doing to protect those girls." After the call ended, Raphael sat staring at his desk. Everything he touched turned complicated. Everything he tried to protect ended up needing more protection. A knock on his door. Caroline. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Sure. Come in." She sat across from him, the same chair Alara always chose. "Alara's telling Meredith everything. About Dad, about what he did. I wanted to give them privacy." "That's probably smart. Is it true? What she's saying, that he—" Caroline stopped, started over. "She told me some of it before, over the phone, but hearing it all at once, seeing her face when she talks about it, it's true. All of it." Caroline's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "I should have known. I should have done something. You were a kid. You still are. I'm 17, old enough to—" Her voice cracked. "I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it was that bad." Raphael understood that. The willful blindness people develop to survive terrible situations. The way you could know something and not know it at the same time. "It's not your fault," he said. "Everyone keeps saying that, but if I'd paid attention, if I'd asked the right questions, he would have hurt you too. That's what men like him do. They find your weakness and exploit it." Raphael leaned forward. "You couldn't have stopped him. Neither could Alara. The system failed you. The adults failed you. Don't put that on yourself." Caroline wiped at her eyes. "Are you going to take care of her? Really take care of her?" "I'm trying. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I've got. I don't know how to fix what was done to her. I don't know if anyone can, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." "What if you get tired of it, of dealing with her damage? Everyone's got damage. Hers just has a name and a face." Caroline studied him for a long moment. "She really believes you're different from him, from other men. Don't prove her wrong. I won't. You say that now, but my father said a lot of things too, made a lot of promises." She stood. "I want to believe you, for her sake, but I'm going to be watching." "Fair enough." She left. Raphael sat alone in his office, feeling the weight of promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Thanksgiving dinner was awkward. Marco had arranged for a catered meal, turkey, all the traditional sides, desserts that looked too perfect to eat. They gathered around Raphael's dining table that rarely got used, trying to pretend this was normal. "This is weird," Meredith said, breaking the silence. "Mare?" Alara said. "What?" "It is. We're sitting here like we're a normal family, having a normal Thanksgiving, but we're not normal. Dad's in the hospital. You're married to someone you barely know. Everything's falling apart." "Everything fell apart a long time ago," Caroline said quietly. "We're just finally admitting it." Alara set down her fork. "You're right. This is weird. But weird's better than where we were." "Is it?" Meredith looked at her older sister. "At least before I knew what to expect. Now everything's different, and I don't know how to be." "None of us do," Alara said. "We're all just figuring it out." "How long does that take, the figuring out part?" Raphael spoke before he could stop himself. "Years, probably. Maybe forever. Some things don't get figured out. You just learn to live with them." 3 pairs of Quinn eyes turned to him. "That's depressing," Meredith said. "That's honest." Raphael pushed food around his plate. "You want me to lie and say everything's going to be perfect? That you'll heal and move on and forget what happened? I can do that. But it won't help." "So what will help, Caroline asked. "Time, distance, building something new instead of trying to fix what's broken." He looked at Alara. "And people who show up, even when it's hard." The meal continued in silence. Not uncomfortable exactly, just heavy. The weight of everything unsaid pressing down. After dinner, Meredith asked if she could watch TV. Caroline disappeared into the library. Alara and Raphael ended up on the balcony, looking out at the city. "That went well," Alara said. "They're scared." "Of you?" "Of everything. Change, uncertainty, the future. Normal stuff, just amplified." Raphael leaned against the railing. "Caroline threatened me earlier." "She what?" "Told me not to prove you wrong about me, that she'd be watching." Alara smiled. "She's protective." "She should be." You all should be. Trusting people hasn't worked out great for you. I trust you. The words were simple, but they landed with weight. Why? Raphael asked. Because you keep showing up. Because you could have walked away a dozen times and didn't. Because you're trying, even when it's messy and hard, and you clearly don't know what you're doing. She turned to face him. Because you gave me a choice. About my father. About testifying. About everything. No one's ever done that before. I don't want to be another person who controls you. You're not. You're the first person who's ever actually seen me. Her voice dropped. Do you know what that's like? To spend your whole life invisible, even to yourself, and then someone looks at you and sees past all the damage to whatever's underneath. Raphael did know. He'd spent 20 years being Raphael DeLuca, empire builder, criminal, monster. No one looked past that to see the scared kid from the wrong neighborhood who'd learned to survive by becoming more dangerous than the things hunting him. Until Alara, who looked at him and saw someone trying to be better. I need to tell you something, she said. Okay. When Vincent first told me about the marriage contract, I tried to kill myself. Raphael went very still. I had pills. From when I broke my ribs. Painkillers I'd been saving. I took all of them. Her voice was flat, clinical. My father found me. Called his private doctor. They pumped my stomach, kept it quiet. And he told me if I ever tried again, he'd make sure my sisters paid for it. Jesus, Alara. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because you need to understand. I came into this marriage already dead, or as close to it as someone breathing can be. I wasn't looking for rescue or redemption or any of that fairy tale nonsense. I was just looking for a different kind of ending. And now I'm terrified. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Because I want to live. Actually live. And wanting things is dangerous. The more you have, the more you can lose. Raphael understood that too. The reason he'd kept people at arm's length for 20 years. The reason he'd built walls and called it protection. I can't promise nothing bad will happen, he said. I can't promise we won't screw this up or hurt each other or fall apart, but I can promise I won't leave. Not because things get hard, not because you're damaged, not for anything. You can't know that. Yeah, I can, because leaving would mean going back to who I was before you. And I don't want to be that person anymore. Alara was crying. Silent tears that caught the city lights. I don't know how to do this. How to be someone's wife. How to be in a relationship that's real. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. What if we can't? Then we'll fail together, still better than succeeding alone. She moved closer, tentative, like she was approaching something dangerous. Raphael stayed still, letting her set the pace. When she finally reached for his hand, it felt like a victory. The call came 2 days later. Marcus Quinn had died in the hospital. Another heart attack, this one massive. He was gone before they could get him to surgery. Raphael took the call in his office, listened to Vincent explain the medical details, the legal implications, the media firestorm that was already starting, hung up and sat there trying to figure out how he felt. Relief, maybe. The threat was gone. Alara and her sisters were safe, but also something else, a hollowness, because Marcus Quinn would never face real justice. Would never have to answer for what he'd done. He'd escaped everything except death. Raphael found Alara in the library. She was reading, or pretending to. He could tell by the way her eyes weren't moving across the page. Your father died, he said. She set down the book. I know. Vincent called me first. How do you feel? I don't know. Empty, relieved, guilty for being relieved. She looked at him. Is it wrong that I'm glad he's dead? No. I should feel sad. He was my father, but all I feel is free, like I can finally breathe. Her voice cracked. What does that make me? Human, honest, someone who survived. My sisters are upstairs. I need to tell them. I don't know how. Want me to come with you? She nodded. They found Caroline and Meredith in the guest room, both on their phones. Probably already seen the news alerts. He's dead, Caroline said before Alara could speak. Dad's dead. Yeah. Meredith was crying, quiet, confused tears. I don't understand. I thought there would be more time to figure things out. To maybe what? Caroline's voice was sharp. Forgive him? Make peace? He didn't deserve any of that. He was still our father. He was a monster who hurt people. Hurt Ilara. Probably would have hurt us too if he'd had the chance. You don't know that, Meredith said. Yes, I do, and so do you. Stop pretending he was something he wasn't. The sisters stared at each other, years of unspoken tension crackling between them. I'm allowed to be sad, Meredith said finally, even if he was terrible. I'm allowed to mourn what he should have been. You're right, Ilara said quietly. You're both right. He was a monster, and he was our father. Those things can both be true. How do you live with that? Meredith asked. The contradiction? Badly. Messily. One day at a time. Ilara sat between her sisters. There's no right way to feel about this. You can be sad and relieved and angry all at once. You can mourn him or celebrate or feel nothing. Whatever you're feeling is okay. They sat together in silence, three sisters trying to make sense of a father who'd been both creator and destroyer. Raphael left them alone, went to his office and did something he hadn't done in years. He called his own father's number, disconnected, like it had been for 2 decades. But he called it anyway, listening to the automated message, wondering if the man who'd abandoned him was alive or dead or somewhere in between. Some wounds never healed. You just learned to live around them. The funeral was small. Just Ilara and her sisters, Raphael and Vincent, a handful of business associates who showed up out of obligation. The media stayed outside, cameras rolling but kept at a distance by security. Marcus Quinn was buried next to his wife. Ilara stood between her sisters, dry-eyed, while the priest said words about eternal rest and peace. Raphael watched her face, trying to read what she was feeling. Saw nothing. She'd gone somewhere else entirely. At the reception afterward, held at Marcus's house, which felt wrong but was traditional, people offered condolences that rang hollow. Everyone knew what Marcus had been. The trafficking charges were public now, the abuse documented in court filings. No one was mourning a good man. Ilara handled it with practiced grace, thanked people for coming, accepted their hollow sympathies, played the grieving daughter. Raphael stayed close, a silent presence at her shoulder. When it was finally over, when the last associate had left, and it was just the 5 of them, Ilara, her sisters, Raphael, and Vincent, Ilara walked through the house one last time. I hate this place, she said, standing in what had been her childhood bedroom. Every room has a memory I wish I could erase. So erase it, Raphael said. Sell the house. Let someone else fill it with better memories. Just like that? Sell my childhood home? It was never a home. It was a prison. You don't owe it anything. Ilara looked around the room. Pink walls she'd probably chosen when she was young, before she learned to be afraid. Furniture that was expensive but cold. Windows that looked out on a lawn she'd never been allowed to play on. Burn it, she said suddenly. What? The house. I want to burn it down. Ilara, not literally, but metaphorically. I want to destroy every trace of him, every memory, every piece of evidence that he existed. Her voice was rising. I want to take everything he built and tear it apart until there's nothing left. Raphael understood the impulse, the need to destroy something so completely it couldn't hurt you anymore. The estate's being liquidated, Vincent said carefully. Assets seized for victim restitution. The house will be sold, proceeds going to the trafficking survivors. That's not enough. Then what would be enough? Caroline asked from the doorway. I don't know. Something that feels like justice. Something that proves he didn't win. He didn't win, Meredith said. She was crying again. We're still here. We survived. That's winning. Ilara pulled her sisters close, held them while they all cried. Not for Marcus Quinn, but for the father they'd never had. For the childhood that had been stolen. For everything they'd lost that they'd never get back. Raphael watched from the doorway, knowing this wasn't his moment. This was theirs.
Later, driving back to the penthouse with just Alara, her sisters had opted to stay at Marcus's house one last night. She asked, "Do you think people can really change?" "Yeah, I have to believe that." "Why?" "Because the alternative is too depressing. The idea that who you are at your worst is who you'll always be." Raphael glanced at her. "You've changed. From the woman I married to who you are now. Have I? Or am I just better at pretending? You're angrier, more willing to fight. That's not pretending. Maybe anger is just another kind of damage. Or maybe it's a step toward healing. You can't fix what you won't acknowledge." They rode in silence for a while. Then Alara said, "I want to go back to school." "What?" "Teaching. I majored in education. Wanted to work with kids. Then my father—" She stopped. "But he's gone now, and I could actually do it. Actually have a life that's mine." "Then do it." "Just like that?" "Just like that. What's stopping you?" "Money. Qualifications. The fact that I'm married to someone whose business dealings don't exactly scream, 'hire me to work with children.'" Raphael had thought about this, about how his reputation would follow her, how being Mrs. DeLuca came with consequences. "We could fix that," he said. "How?" "Annulment, divorce, whatever you want to call it. We end the marriage. You get your life back." Alara went very still. "Is that what you want?" "I want you to be free, really free, not just free from your father, but free to choose what comes next." "And if I choose you?" Raphael's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Then I'd say you're making a terrible decision, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. Pull over." "What?" "Pull over. Now." Raphael pulled the car to the side of the road. They were somewhere in the city, streetlights casting shadows, late enough that traffic was sparse. Alara turned to face him. "I don't want an annulment. I don't want a divorce. I want—" She stopped, breathed. "I want this to be real." "It is real." "No, it's a contract, a transaction. I want something that's chosen, not forced. I want to marry you because I want to, not because my father sold me." Raphael understood. The difference between a cage and a choice, even when they looked the same from outside. "Okay," he said. "Then we do it right." "What does that mean?" "It means I court you, take you on dates, let you see who I am when I'm not just protecting you, and you figure out if that's someone you actually want to be with." "That's ridiculous. We're already married." "Exactly. So we've got nothing to lose by doing it backward." Alara laughed, real laughter. "You're insane." "Probably, but you're considering it." "I am." She reached for his hand. "But Raphael, I already know I want you. The dates are just an excuse to make you work for it." "Fair enough." They sat there in the parked car, hands joined, the city moving around them. Two people who'd started as a transaction and somehow become something else. It wouldn't be easy. Alara had years of trauma to work through. Raphael had a criminal empire to either dismantle or legitimize. Her sisters needed stability. The legal fallout from Marcus's death would take months to resolve. But for the first time in either of their lives, the future felt like something other than survival. It felt like possibility. 6 months later, Raphael sat in the audience of a small elementary school, watching Alara teach a classroom of second graders about the water cycle. She was animated, engaged, everything he'd never seen her be before. The kids loved her. He could tell by the way they hung on every word. Caroline was in college now, studying law. Said she wanted to prosecute men like their father. Meredith had started therapy, was slowly learning to be a kid again. Both of them came to the penthouse every weekend, slowly building the family they'd never had. Raphael's businesses were changing too. The protection rackets were being phased out. The shipping company, formerly Marcus's, now seized and sold to Raphael through a shell corporation, was actually legitimate. Vincent called it a miracle. Raphael called it exhausting, but worth it. After school, Alara found him waiting by his car. "You came," she said. "I said I would." "You've been saying that a lot lately, showing up." "It's what people do when they care." She smiled, that real smile he'd worked months to earn. "Want to go home?" Home. Not the penthouse, not Raphael's place. Home, theirs. Yeah, he said. Let's go home. They drove through the city that had shaped them both, her in one nightmare, him in another. Past the courthouse where she'd testified against her father. Past the building where Raphael had built his empire. Past the hospital where Marcus had died. All of it was history now. Not forgotten, but not defining them anymore either. That night, Ilara cooked dinner. Badly. She wasn't good at it yet, kept burning things, but she was trying. Raphael helped, which mostly meant staying out of the way and offering moral support. I want to renew our vows, she said while chopping vegetables with dangerous enthusiasm. We're still married from the first time. I know, but that was his marriage, his contract. I want one that's ours. Okay? Just okay? No argument about how we're already legally bound? Ilara, you want to marry me again? I'm not arguing. Raphael stole a piece of carrot. When? Next month. Small ceremony. Just us and my sisters and Vincent. Maybe Marco. No press, no society pages. No witnesses except the people who matter. They planned it over burnt chicken and undercooked rice. A ceremony that would mean something because it was chosen, not forced. Vows they'd write themselves. A beginning that was actually a beginning. The night before the ceremony, Raphael found Ilara on the balcony. She was holding the contract. The original one her father had signed, selling her like property. What are you doing with that? He asked. Remembering. She held it up. This piece of paper changed my life. We could burn it. We could. But I think I want to keep it. Proof that something terrible can become something good. That people can choose different endings. That's very philosophical for midnight. I'm feeling philosophical. Getting married tomorrow, again, to someone I actually love this time. It was the first time either of them had used that word. Love. It hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Say it again, Raphael said. I love you, even though you're a criminal with anger issues and a savior complex. I love you too, even though you're damaged and terrified and barely know how to cook. That's the worst declaration of love I've ever heard. It's honest. I know, that's why it works. They stood on the balcony watching the city, their city now. Not perfect, not healed, but theirs. The wedding was everything the first one wasn't. Small, intimate, real. Ilara wore a simple dress, not the suffocating gown from before. Raphael wore a suit but no tie, casual enough to breathe. Caroline stood as Ilara's witness. Meredith read a poem she'd written about sisters and survival. Vincent officiated, using words about choice and commitment that actually meant something. When it came time for vows, Ilara went first. I don't have pretty words or promises I can't keep. I can't promise I won't have bad days, or that my damage won't sometimes be too much. But I can promise I'll keep choosing you, every single day. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because you taught me that love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. Raphael's turn. I was a monster before you. Maybe I still am. But you made me want to be better. Not because you asked me to, but because you deserve someone who tries. I can't undo my past. Can't erase the things I've done. But I can promise you a future where I'm better than I was. Where I protect without controlling. Where I love without owning. You're not my property. You're my partner. And I choose you. Today. Tomorrow. For as long as you'll have me. They exchanged rings. New ones, not the ones from before. These were chosen, not assigned. When Vincent pronounced them married, again, Raphael kissed her. Not for cameras or witnesses, but because he wanted to. Because she was his wife by choice now, not by contract. The reception was dinner at their penthouse. Nothing fancy, just food and family and the people who mattered. Caroline gave a toast about sisters who survived. Meredith played piano, something she'd started learning in therapy. Vincent told embarrassing stories about Raphael's legitimate business ventures. It was normal, boring even, and that was the point. Later, after everyone had gone home, Raphael found Ilara in the library. Their library now, filled with books they'd chosen together. How do you feel? He asked. Married. Actually married this time. She looked at him. Happy. I think this is what happy feels like. Think or no? Both.
I'm still figuring it out. Me too. They sat together in comfortable silence, reading separate books, occasionally sharing interesting passages, existing in the same space without needing to fill it with words. This was the thing no one told you about healing. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't a sudden revelation or transformation. It was small moments strung together.
Choosing to get up every morning. Choosing to trust. Choosing to let someone in even when every instinct said to run. It was Raphael learning to build instead of destroy. Alara learning that safety could exist without fear. Both of them stumbling through it, making mistakes, but doing it together. A year later, Alara stood in front of a classroom of her own. Not teaching second grade anymore. She'd moved up to high school, working with at-risk kids. Kids who understood what it meant to survive homes that were supposed to be safe. She was good at it, better than good. She understood them in a way other teachers couldn't, saw past the anger and defiance to the fear underneath. Raphael had transitioned his entire operation. The protection rackets were gone, the questionable investments liquidated. What remained was legitimate, shipping, real estate, import, export, that was actually legal. It made less money. But he slept better. Sometimes Marcus Quinn's victims reached out. Women who'd been trafficked, who'd survived because Alara had testified. They thanked her, told her she'd saved them. She never knew what to say to that, because she hadn't saved anyone. She'd just survived. And sometimes surviving was the same as winning. Caroline graduated law school top of her class, passed the bar on her first try, started working for the prosecutor's office, doing exactly what she'd promised, making men like her father pay. Meredith was 16 now, still in therapy, still working through things, but lighter somehow. She'd started writing, poetry, short stories, processing her trauma through fiction. Some of it was dark. All of it was honest. The Quinn sisters had dinner together every Sunday, sometimes at the penthouse, sometimes at Caroline's tiny apartment, sometimes at restaurants where no one knew their story. They talked about normal things, work, school, dating, gradually building a relationship that wasn't based on survival. On the second anniversary of their chosen wedding, Raphael surprised Alara with something he'd been working on for months. "Close your eyes," he said. "Why?" "Just trust me." She did. He led her to his office, positioned her in front of the desk. "Okay, open." On the desk was a folder. Alara opened it, found legal documents. "What is this?" "The marriage contract, the original one. I'm nullifying it, legally destroying every trace of that agreement." Raphael pointed to another set of papers. "And this is a new one where we're equals, where everything is shared, where you can walk away anytime with half of everything." "I don't want half of everything." "I know, but you should have the option. You should never feel trapped again." Alara looked at the papers, at this man who'd started as her captor and become her partner, who was still learning how to be vulnerable, how to trust, how to love someone without controlling them. "I'm not signing this," she said. "Why not?" "Because I don't need a contract that says I can leave. I need you to know I'm choosing to stay." "Alara, no, listen. You've spent 2 years proving you're different, showing me that safety exists, that I can have a voice and use it without punishment. I don't need legal protection from you. I need you to stop trying to fix everything and just be here with me." Raphael set down the papers. "I'm terrified I'm going to screw this up. That one day you'll wake up and realize you settled for the first person who wasn't actively hurting you." "You're not the first person who wasn't hurting me. You're the first person who actually saw me. There's a difference." "I keep saying that there's a difference. Because there is." She moved closer. "You taught me that things that look the same can be fundamentally different, that fear and weakness aren't the same, that broken and unfixable aren't the same, that a cage and a choice can look identical from outside but feel completely different inside. Which is this? What we have. This is choice. Messy, imperfect, still figuring it out choice. But choice." Raphael pulled her close, held her like she was something precious, because she was. "I love you," he said. "I know. You show me every day." They stood there in his office, surrounded by the empire he'd built and was slowly transforming into something legitimate. Surrounded by proof that people could change, could choose different endings, could become better than their worst moments. The world outside kept turning. The city kept breathing. Somewhere, someone was surviving something terrible. Somewhere else, someone was choosing to heal. Raphael and Alara had been both, had survived and chosen healing, had learned that those things weren't sequential. You didn't survive first and then heal. You did both at once, badly, for the rest of your life. And that was okay, because healing wasn't about becoming undamaged. It was about learning to live with damage in ways that didn't destroy you. It was about building something new instead of trying to restore what was broken. It was about choosing every single day to show up for yourself and the people you loved. It was about looking at a marriage that started as a transaction and choosing to make it real. It was about being two broken people who decided broken pieces could fit together after all. Not perfectly. Never perfectly. But together. And that was enough. Years later, when people asked how they'd met, Alara would say, business arrangement that became personal. Raphael would add, best worst decision I ever made. And they'd both laugh because it was true. The contract that had started everything sat in a safe somewhere, proof that terrible beginnings could lead to chosen endings, that people could be bought and sold and still find freedom, that love could grow in the strangest places, that monsters could become men, that victims could become survivors, that two people damaged beyond repair could somehow repair each other, not by fixing, by accepting, by choosing, by showing up every single day. Even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Because that was love. Not the fairy tale version, the real one. Messy and complicated and built on foundation of honesty instead of perfection. And in a world that had tried to destroy them both, choosing that kind of love was the greatest victory either of them could claim.